Most importantly, leadership is relational and it's human.
And then we'll hear, yeah, but. Because we're kind of obsessed with that word, but.
Right, I hear you, but I love you, but I'm sorry, but thank you, but you're doing good, but.
But just deletes everything that was just said. So we really need the word and. I hear you and. I love you and. I'm sorry and. Thank you and. You're doing good and. I'm Josh Donovan with Lighthouse Institute.
And I'm Patrick Ibarra with Lighthouse Media.
And
we're excited to dive into leadership through real conversations.
It's all on the table. Work, parenting, marriage, conflict, friendship, personal growth. Because wherever you go, there you are, leading yourself and leading others. So really, this is leadership and everything else. All right, another episode of Leadership and we have Sarah Failla joining us today, which this will be the first time we have a fellow podcast host here joining us. So maybe you'll be hosting, maybe we'll be hosting, I don't know. We haven't talked a lot about the title Leadership and. We have in other episodes talked about the idea of paradox. And how most things in life, at least from my perspective, are paradox. And the best way to live in the tension of a paradox is that 3-letter magical word, and. And I know Sarah's podcast is titled Paradox and Parts.
Yes.
And so you're going to be a great person to help us unpack this idea of paradox and what it means and why we would pick something like leadership and why do you pick something like paradox and parts?
Yeah. So... hello.
Hi.
I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. Stoked you're here.
Yeah. So I titled my podcast Paradox and Parts because understanding paradox changed my life. Growing up in such a black and white, this or this, right or wrong, good or bad. It wasn't, I think, until my late 30s that I kind of realized what paradox was and that two things could be true at the same time. And in that, it was also from a spiritual director, who I know you know as well, Josh.
Is that Katie?
Katie,
Okay.
yeah. Just really helping us understand what it's like to be a human. And in that, the paradox and understanding that two things can be true at the same time also helped with so much shame that we hide or that we have inside. And so embracing that just left a whole new lease on life. Also growing up in a very, religious upbringing, you have a lot that played into it as well. And so being able to embrace all of ourselves and stop judging was a huge key piece to that. So that's the paradox part.
Yeah.
And then parts for me is also internal family systems. So I'm a certified practitioner with IFS, and understanding the parts of ourselves that make up who we are. It's just so fascinating. Like I love when we get to understand and know ourselves, because then we can have compassion and grace and realize everything we do, even the things that frustrate us, there's a positive intent behind us, even if it's not reaping the rewards that we want or it's not showing up in a right way. And when we can kind of backtrack and be like, oh, I thought this action would get me that. And always, I guess this is another thing, having grace on our younger selves for what he or she didn't know and being like, they were doing the best they could at the time. And
we were doing the best we could.
Exactly.
Right?
Or even yesterday. Our younger
that previous version of myself 48 hours ago.
Yeah. But when we can look back and kind of see the bigger picture and have grace, I think that's so huge. So paradox and parts, and then the subtitle is embracing all of you.
Embracing all of you. Man, already so much to just pull on right there. So, okay, what's interesting, you talked about even some of the things that frustrate you, being able to kind of reverse engineer some of those into identifying parts. That actually came up already with your husband, Chris Failla. And so that's an important piece about you, right? Like you are the other husband-wife duo on the Lighthouse team, right? So Brianna and I, and then you and Chris.
Yep.
And so he was talking a little bit about that from the lens of the why process, and that, some of your, where a man's wound is, there also is his genius, that whole idea. Tell us more about this internal family systems, because this is a fascinating area to even think, and just that whole part of me language.
Yeah.
That's, for the leadership series, we don't get to it often until very late when we're talking about conflict, right? And we even just offer the language. A lot of people know what I call therapy counseling language of when you, I feel, when you, and I'd like, right? And so it's like, oh, just even shifting that to part of me. Part of me feels like this, or part of me feels like that. But that that language piece really comes from a deeper foundation of the internal family systems idea, which you introduced me to. So tell us about it.
I mean, there's so much.
I know.
It's so good. And even just picking up on the thing that you initially said in communicating with somebody, like how like abrasive is it if it's like, I'm so mad at you,
right?
Or like, you know, versus a part of me is like really mad at you. Even that can just like soften someone's energetics. Yeah. Because is all of you mad at this person? You might think you are, but you're also like, no, actually, I love them, and I know this, and I know that, and I don't want to deny the fact that I'm mad about this.
Right.
So I think it allows us to show up honestly. So to backtrack, internal family systems, Richard Schwartz, he's got a few books out there that we can put in the show notes or whatever, I'm sure. Essentially, it's like if you think about family therapy, you'd bring in all the members of the family, and you'd sit down, and everyone would have a conversation, bring something to the table. Essentially, internal family systems is the concept, the theory that inside of us, we also have a family, all sitting at the table, different parts of us that have different desires, different goals. On the one hand, you could just say, like a simple way is like, part of me wants pizza tonight and part of me wants Mexican food, right? That's like a simplest version of it. Part of me wants to get married, part of me doesn't. Bigger version, part of me wants to move, part of me doesn't. Part of me
wants kids.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Part of me does not.
So, but then
Is it
we
too late
think
for that?
Yes, yeah. So we think of that, and it makes sense when we can say it out loud, but inside what often happens is we don't even realize we're at war with ourselves. And that's also even a part of coaching, is often we can't like deal with our brain in our brain, like our thoughts. So getting things out on paper. So even with IFS, getting out in with a coach or in a room, like, okay, here's the part of me that wants this. Okay, what's the value that that part is holding on to that it's afraid potentially you're going to lose? Like maybe this part really values freedom, and this part's like, no, I want to lock down and I want to buy a house and I want to live in this place. Okay, this part's valuing stability and maybe like the family legacy. What do you do when those parts are at
Which part
odds?
wins?
Yeah, and then you feel kind of crazy inside, I often say. But realizing they both have positive intent, how do we give a voice to that? And this is different than like schizophrenia. Like we're not talking about that. This is a different level. So there's so many ways that this plays out. Wanting to get fit, wanting to, make more money, wanting to have a conversation with your boss. Part of you's like, do it. Part of you's scared. Part of you like, it comes up so much. And when you can identify these parts, often they're younger versions of us that took over a role for us because we didn't know how to like handle it ourselves in that moment. Like our younger version maybe didn't have the resources, didn't have the support. So maybe you got made fun of when you were in first grade. So there's a part of you that's like, I will never be vulnerable like this. So then you become tough, right? But then that toughness, maybe you're 33 and you're married and you're like, well, why can't I be like vulnerable
Soft.
Here?
Compassionate.
Yeah, it's
right.
because that part sometimes needs to be updated. So it kind of blends with inner child work. I don't know if people have heard of that. So if you talk about inner child work, I don't love the phrase inner child sometimes because it's not always our inner child. Like we said earlier, it could be your 30-year-old who went through a divorce and now you're like trying to date again and you're just like
still operating from that survival mindset mode when you're not there anymore. Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know exactly where to go. Okay, I'll go here first. Yeah. Because you mentioned Richard Schwartz. Schwartz, I want to say that right. And one of the title of his book is actually like, whoa, really? And so I want to name this, which is the title is No Bad Parts. Yeah. And expand on that, like because I think already, even as I hear, as I process this the first time, I would kind of villainize some of my parts, and then other parts like, well, this is the good part of me, and this is the bad. But really, he's saying no bad parts. Like every part inside of us is good, honorable, like wants the best for us. Yes. Right. Good intentions is the way you said it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a mixed bag, huh?
It's a lot.
It's so complex.
And so what I'm hearing you on the inner child piece is interesting because I feel like there's an overlay with positive intelligence, the PQ work of Shirzad Chamine that we use in the leadership series that talks about SAGE, judge voices, right, on our shoulders. But then there's that expansion in the judge of the 9 different saboteurs that come, with their voices. And that actually is a framing that's a little more on like that negative side, that they're coming from that survival function, and your brain's not really serving you when that, call it part or voice, is leading. Integrate those for us. The whole like kind of like no parts idea, but like there's also times where our mind, our nervous system is not really serving us in the best way. How do you unpack that?
Yeah. So without going too crazy into how they called it, like you have your firefighter parts, your manager parts, they have all this language, which I feel like can just be really confusing sometimes. Essentially, you have certain parts that when you get so close to like a wound, say there's a part of you that this part is protecting, like that 5-year-old who got, or I don't know how old I said, when, got made fun of on the playground. When something starts to trigger that memory or that same feeling inside, there are certain parts that will at no cost stop that part from being exposed. And those are what we would call, when it's like addiction, suicide, like not like there's a lot more heavy stuff that can come into there because they're like, at all costs, I don't care. I'm committed to protecting that. So in that, if we can see the positive intent, now is
protection.
Yes.
Protection, survival.
Is the outcome positive?
Yeah.
Not necessarily. Like you might blow up your life. You might do some really things that you're going to have trouble with down the road. But if we can understand that intent, and parts work isn't like you just go in and you change everything. Sometimes I think we have like a mindset shift like this. It's really getting to know and understand, because those parts, you can kind of like update them to where you are in time and space today. Hey, I'm an adult now. Hey, it's okay. Like I can handle it if someone laughs at me or whatever might happen. And this is like a really, trite thing. But it's actually not trite. I take that back. Like to be made fun of at that age can be really impactful for a lot of people. So I take that back.
That's allowed, by the way. You can
Okay,
take that
take it back.
back.
Yeah.
You can delete it. Yeah.
Right?
Can I go?
And that's
Can I
the
edit
minimizing,
that?
right? Well, and that's what we talk about when we talk about, because I'm also trauma informed. We're just going all over the place. So
This is important. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have like big T traumas and little T traumas. Like big T trauma, like sexual abuse, war, famine, those kind of things. Little T traumas, more like maybe being made fun of. But actually, it really is dependent on your nervous system. What is a big T trauma and what's a little T trauma? So something happening without, an empathetic witness, like there's no one there to be with you, it can lock into you as a big T trauma. And we're all different too. And that's why we can't judge. That's why I quickly was like, oh, well, maybe that's not a big thing. But I don't know, because for that person, that could have been the most awful thing that they ever experienced at that age,
just
because of their makeup.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Imagine there's range there, right? So
Range.
like
That's a good
someone
word.
who's experienced, call it legit big T trauma, right? They're going to have this range of trauma that's here.
Yeah.
And someone else who hasn't experienced that, their little T trauma is going to feel very big T to them. That's the most traumatic thing they've experienced.
Yes.
Yeah, it's almost similar to what we say when we talk about trust, where we're like, hey, like deposits and withdrawals are not the same for everybody, right?
Exactly.
Like, trauma is not experienced the same by everyone. So sure, I can look at someone, I've dealt with some stuff in my life, right? And it's like, I can look at people and go, trauma? Really? But that's judgment, right? Versus just letting that experience be their experience, be curious about that. Like, tell me more. What's going on? Where's this coming from? Or a question that the Faillas use a lot, like, what version of you is processing this right now? Like, how old are you right now?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
It's the best question. I'll give an example of that. So Chris and I were out for a walk, and this was a couple years ago, and we were talking about budgeting. And I was the one that brought it up, like, because I was like wanting to save for some other things, and we were having this conversation. And he could obviously feel me getting I can be a little intense sometimes, maybe. And he just looked at me and he's like, how old do you feel like you are right now? And it wasn't like a judgmental way. You could take it that way. You could
For
ask
sure.
it one way
Yeah.
or another. But
Tone
I also
matters.
knew it was my thing. Tone manager. Yeah. Tone. And my immediate response was 5. Because it was my 5-year-old not wanting to be controlled, feeling so controlled in so many ways. And this, for me, is a pattern that can come up. I was the one wanting to set the budget.
Right.
Chris wasn't even bringing this up.
Right.
Because I was wanting to have some more structure so we could do some other things with our money here. It comes up with me with, like, when it comes to, like, how I eat sometimes. Like, I'll be like, hey, I want to do better. And then I'm like, by better, healthier. But there's this part of me that's like, you're not going to control me. Don't tell me what to do. And it stems from, it's not really alive as much anymore. But younger, I felt very controlled. very like, you have to act this way, you have to dress this way, you have to do this. So it was that little rebel part of me just kind of being like, fuck you, you're not going to tell me. And it was me wanting to do it. So, but when we can understand that, and when our partners can understand, because we're not just married to our partner current day, we're married to every version of them along the way. And can we have grace and compassion to understand when my little girl's triggered? Can I understand when Chris's like little boy's triggered? And everywhere in between, or maybe it's the teenager version. And so I think, understanding people. Like, I love the inner worlds of people. And, you know, that's why one of my kids says it's not that deep, but I make everything deep because I just think people are so fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's so beautiful to understand ourselves and to know ourselves. And then we can actually show up in relationship different, or even be honest. Hey, a part of me is feeling triggered right now. This isn't about you. So then my husband can like take a breath. And then I can also take the ownership and responsibility. And it doesn't mean we excuse everything because we have these things. It just means we understand that there's more at play. But yes, we still show up, do the work, do what you got to do.
I love that.
And the value that brings when you're actually understanding that other person in front of you, that is not just, you know, Chris at this age. It's like Chris in all these stages. Like, that has to be so powerful, and being able to communicate with him in a manner that, I mean, even him, like having that, you know, like that thought of like, hey, how old do you think you are right now? Because if I'm speaking to my wife right now, it's different than the way that I'm going to speak to 5-year-old Sarah. So we need to like rebalance this right here. This conversation has to be taken in a different level, right? And so just having that awareness of like, okay, I am talking to this part of you right now. You use different language, different body language, different everything, different tone. So that's so powerful. How cool is that?
Or be like, I need to come back when I'm regulated. I think that's a great thing, right? Like, I'm feeling myself triggered right now. Some part of me is activated. I'm going to go. But I think, and also depending on your partner, it can be really important to know, okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. I'll be back in 20 minutes. Because then you could also, if your partner has abandonment issues, you taking 5 minutes.
This came up in our conversation with Brianna.
Okay, I haven't heard this.
Well, it was all about like needing to take a break in a challenging conversation. And early in our relationship, I used to literally freak out because, and I always make the joke,
she's out.
I would hear Ross and Rachel, we need a break, right? Like, and so I would just I'd spiral. I'd have this negative story, and it was really through the MBTI like resource pages and learning about how I navigate conflict versus her that we were able to get to that time container idea, so that she can, in expressing that she needs the break, tell me what kind of break she needs. And that'll calm me and put me in the mindset, heart set of like, okay, this will be more conducive to the goal. So let her take the break. Don't spin out. You know you're good, right?
But that's very valid, right? Like, and so I think that's where understanding each other and having these conversations outside of arguments or whatever, when somebody is triggered, it just is so helpful. And I think all of these tools, they could end up boxing you in, you know, like strengths and MBTI and human design and all the different things that there are out there. They're beautiful until you find yourself using them as an excuse.
Totally.
And you're in this box. Well, I can't because I like.
I'm just an ENTP.
Right.
No, not okay.
It doesn't get to work that way. And it gets to just help you understand your partner, right? And so Chris and I, we've all Strengths Finder. It's been in our world for like 15 years. He got certified with Gallup. We use it with our kids. We used to do it with premarital counseling for people. And it helps to triangle in a strength sometimes. It's like that 3 instead of just me and you. It's like, hey, my harmony, because I have harmony in my top 5, is really feeling just like not okay right now. Can I just have a minute? And it kind of helps you understand their strengths. It just gives you more language to understand the person that you care about.
Something came up. Patrick and I have been spending a little more time on the internet. Like Instagram, Facebook, you know, just we're through Lighthouse Media, kind of pumping out.
It's an interesting place.
We're getting ready to launch the podcast, so I've been encountering more memes and reels and do you guys call them GIFs? I say GIFs.
GIF.
Yeah.
I think it's a GIF, but
GIF.
I say
the
GIF.
kids say GIF, and I say GIF.
Ooh, that's a big debate, right?
I don't know. Well, anyways, been seeing a lot of them, and 2 are coming to mind when you were talking. The first was this one that's like, my wife, lead, make decisions, take charge. Also, my wife, don't tell me what to do. Right? It's like that whole like
paradox. At its biggest, like it's like, what do you want, woman?
Parts of me, right? That just was coming to mind when you were talking, and then there was another one, and it was a little more of that like heartfelt, soft music playing. It's like, I asked my my grandpa had been married for 50 years or something like that, and it's what's the secret? And the wise grandpa says basically the secret is like you have to learn to fall in love with every different version of her. Like you don't pick one person and stay married to that person. You pick that person over and over in the different versions of themselves as they continue to redefine, re-explore, rediscover, right? And that they change all the time. And I'm only at 21 years this year, but like I think about that and go, gosh, we are completely different versions of ourselves today than we were at 20 or 30, and that will continue to evolve. And so if you're really talking about, we did talk with Brianna about what's the secret to marriage. We talked about grace and compromise and those are important. But I also think it's just a willingness to choose each other and say, you know what, you've shifted a little and this version's different, and I'm going to find a way to fall in love with this one too. So that, I don't know, just as you were talking about the parts and the shifts, that was showing up and that was just another Instagram reel,
right?
Wisdom from Instagram.
There is some nuggets in there. One more thing I wanted to point out, we were talking also about through the lens of MBTI, like personalities, and how people say that can it change? Can your personality change over time, or is that's just your behavior that is actually changing? And so you mentioned something earlier that I was like, oh, that's so. That's such a paradox, right? Like if that little kid, that little boy had in his heart to be like super open and vulnerable, and then that traumatic event, and I think you mentioned it on that conversation, that there are exclusions to like when a personality actually does change and not just behavior, and it could be triggered by those traumas, right? And so I thought it was just such a great example of like how not knowing, like those little kids around him, not knowing the impact that can have on that little kid can change somebody's almost like DNA, if you will, like on how they show up in the world. So,
And if we think about like how we show up to our world creates the world that we experience. So in that, at that moment, maybe, everything, like maybe he showed up a little bit smaller, a little bit more cautious, or other way too, maybe more like fighting, combative. And so then you look at like day after day after day of those little shifts, then the feedback you're getting from the world is based on the actions you're giving to the world. And then, it's just so interesting.
A feedback loop right there.
Yeah. And, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. I also want to say, I think in this world, because I've been in personal development for so long, I just want to like say for everyone listening as well, yes, there's trauma. Yes, things happen. And we're also forged through that, and resilience is made. I think depending on where you're at on the spectrum, and I think we're all in different seasons, right? So maybe you're in a season where you are more introspective and you're really doing that deep inner work, or maybe you're on a season where you're like building your tough muscle that I'm going to show up and do what I say I'm going to do. I don't care how I feel. I think there gets to be a balance in there, but also like it all gets to exist. So I think I don't know if that makes sense, but I just think I've seen both sides where I'm like, if the whole point is you're just essentially navel gazing and like looking in and trying to figure out all your traumas, that can actually be a trauma response.
Totally.
Because you can end up like just recycling that versus, okay, where is actually shift and how is this like in my life? So I think it's both. Like, let's do the work, which is why I love the inner work, right? And the somatic work. And we haven't even gotten into that, but like, and then also the mindset, because they're both important. Right? Unless you just want to go live by yourself somewhere and be fine. But if you want to be in the world.
And what you're describing, I think, beautifully encompasses our leadership series participants. Because, you get a room of 14 people coming in that are coming from all different phases of their personal journey, also their professional journey. Some are in that camp. They're like ready to really go introspective, deep reflection. Others are looking to perform, strengthen the muscle, and so it's anywhere in between, and then having the opportunity then to kind of wrestle with that personal growth together in that experience. The origin story gives people a real opportunity to go back and look at those highs, lows, which I can hear. I can hear both sides of the paradox played back when people have gotten through the origin story process, right? You can hear where it's like this deep awareness over here, and then it's like, oh, okay, that was cool to look in the rear view, and I'm going to focus on the windshield. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, that's so good.
Okay, you've mentioned a few things already about coaching, And
Okay.
so I think I definitely want to dive into coaching. You already mentioned internal family systems, trauma informed.
Yeah.
Mentioned a little bit about Gallup, the Clifton Strengths. You just mentioned somatic technique, right? So as a container, we'll just say coaching.
Yeah.
In the Lighthouse world, we call it executive coaching, mostly because we're in that corporate training world. I think most people who engage with executive coaching realize there's not a whole lot of like actual executive, right? Like,
Right. In a sense, like, I don't know your job better than you. But I
Totally.
can help you operate your job better.
Exact-
Not better than them, but like, yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't know. I don't even know what you do. Like, or I'm not there in the day to day of your actual job.
Yeah.
Right. But we coach the human.
Yeah.
And I think really we're doing life coaching disguised as executive coaching, which is kind of fun and beautiful. You're a phenomenal coach, and you are doing a ton of coaching for us in the Lighthouse world.
Yeah.
You also coach outside of the Lighthouse world, and you have your own clients. And I know you've done a lot of certifications and programs that you're a part of. So we want to know more about Sarah Failla's coaching.
Yeah, all of it. That's a lot. It's a broad
It
category.
is a lot.
I'm like,
It's a
okay, where do we
big
start?
bucket, yeah.
Well, first I want to say I love working for Lighthouse because it's the whole person. And even when I've had conversations with you, Josh, like, is it okay if he's like, you're like, do whatever you want, Sarah. Like, you are coaching the whole human. And you continue reiterating that and the freedom in that and the trust in that.
That will be you asking me, like, hey, this came up in coaching. Is this okay? And I'm like, listen, you set the container in coaching, and it's their journey. If they're bringing something to you, they're telling you it's okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, stay
But
the
I think
course.
it was under the guise, like, do I have to, what's an executive coach? And do
Totally.
I only need to do your mindset and your thoughts? And do I need to, like, make sure we're, and I think that, and I have a range of that. So even within Lighthouse, if we just start there, some clients, it's very practical. It's like, okay, what are you doing? Where's the gaps? How do we do it? And it's me holding them accountable. Okay, why aren't you doing this? What does that look like? And even having something to follow up on, right? It's like I was a weight loss coach for like 10 years and I have a coach right now. It's just because you know it doesn't mean that you can execute it, and asking for support as an independent face can be difficult, but it's just so powerful to have somebody else share that space, hold that space for you. So that might be a more in this bucket. But then I also have people who it's like we're going deep and we're doing this stuff. And why are you afraid to have the conversation with your boss? Like, what's wrong? Why aren't you able to have these relationships go the way that you want? Like, where do you need to take ownership? Where do you need to look in the mirror? And where do you need some healing? Like, where do you need to actually pause and be like, oh, this is what's going on here, or this is the fear that's being triggered. And then I also want to say, in the coaching the women that I do, I feel like I do have a unique position as a woman. One of my first questions is, when was the last time you had your hormones checked? And I don't say that in like, oh, the hormones of women, but like, it really is a thing that plays into life. And I think if people could truly understand sometimes in that midlife, perimenopause, which starts way earlier than a lot of people think, there's a lot going on inside the women around you that you might not realize. And often it can sound like, I don't feel like myself, or I don't know why, like I have brain fog, or I don't know what's going on here. And so, but they're still showing up and doing their job, right? You're still showing up. And so I love that I have that as a woman. I mean, I'm sure you could say it, but you need to caveat it. I don't know how that would,
lots of asterisks on that one.
but it's so important. So with some of my clients, like, health is always a part of it. And I think that's, even in my own coaching, I feel like you can't take one piece out. Sure, you can like focus on it, but we have to understand the system, which is why I often start with a new client with a life wheel. Okay, what are all the pieces that are important to you? If one area were to move just one or two, how would that impact the other areas? Because it's all connected, because we're not just a brain or a worker or a mom or a dad or like a whatever those pieces are. So in Lighthouse, it does all of that. And I've had some clients where we have our session at home and I walk them through like an anger release program, or like like a call, or, just do a lot more somatic work, or where we know we're going to go in and touch on some inner child stuff. And you don't want to go to an executive meeting like right after that, or you don't want to go, you need to kind of have yourself together
For
at work.
sure. Define somatic for us, just for people who won't have context for that.
So somatic just means the body.
Yep.
Like, how do we get into the body? How do we store things in the body? So it's the mindset, but it's also like things that are stored. You think of an animal after, trauma, you'll see an animal shaking. As a human, sometimes there's things that we need to shake. And it's not just for the craziness of it, but it's truly just letting the wisdom of your body speak. And you can even notice, like, in a session, it's like, okay, if I have someone drop into their body and maybe they're struggling to, have a hard conversation, I'll be like, okay, what do you notice in your body? And they might be like, yeah, I just feel like tightness here. Okay, well, throat, I mean, if you're having trouble speaking. And so we can go in and say, okay, like, what do you notice? Like, is there a color? Is there a shape? What is that? And as we kind of go into that, it also, our body has messages for us. So it's like, okay, what is the message of this? And maybe the message is, I don't want to get fired. Like, I'm scared if I confront this person, I might lose my job. Okay, that's valid. And so, but in that, how do we kind of like move that energy that's stored in different places in our body? Sometimes it might be your hands or head, anywhere. Jaw is often, you can tell when someone's jaw is tight because they're just like clenching, relaxing that and allowing the space. So then you can also lead. This goes back to IFS, lead from self, right? So we talked about all these parts, and it's more like, this sounds bad to call parts this, but just for our analogy, it's almost like you don't want a toddler running your life. And so sometimes when these parts it's like a toddler run around with a knife, like that's a dangerous situation. How do we kind of create space from these parts so that self, like current adult, regulated self, can lead? And I think that also comes into the body. Like, we don't know, like, because you can walk into a meeting and like constrict. You're like, what is that? Well, there's wisdom there. So if we just ignore it, what are you maybe missing out? Maybe, maybe it's a sign to kind of pause. Maybe something's dangerous, but we can ignore these slight signals. And so the more freedom and space we have within our bodies, the more we're also able to tune in. It's like a whole other weapon of understanding in life that we're not even attuned to. And also, you can go into like a whole other range of things with that. It's like, okay, like that's a specific example of, okay, someone's struggling, what's in your body? But even just like movement and allowing more movement in your body, like where do you find joy and pleasure and pain or grief? Like, where are things stored? It all gets to be included. And so that's something really the last 2 years that I've really embarked on and put myself in a lot of containers that were stretchy. But in that, I've just found so much more freedom. And so I like the word like somatic dignity. Like, how do I just like actually like hold myself in all ways, mentally, but also just like in my body? Like, at the end of the day, I've got me.
So there's
Is this making sense?
No, there's so much good stuff in there. I want to use that example you're talking about, because the ability to process that in a container, like a coaching container with you. So someone to be able to sit there and say like, something's coming up and I'm feeling it here and, in the throat and it's tight. Like, the ability to process that in a safe container where it's happening, but the stakes are low, right? Really increases that awareness and understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, probably strengthens their ability to regulate that when it happens in other environments. And I think this is really important because I'm seeing this play out live time with a couple of our clients. So you talk about like executive leadership meetings. So you're bringing your team in and you're having these are the real conversations that an organization needs to have. They're wrestling with important stuff, right? And that you just said, maybe you feel constriction in a meeting and like that happens. I'm watching it, there. And then what happens is body language starts to be, we'll just put a blanket over it as negative. Negative body language starts showing up in the room. Sarah's crossing her arms, leaning back. Somebody's legs start shaking under the table. Pouty faces,
it's
right?
It's all information and data.
It's all there. And what people will call, hey, what's going on? Hey, are you okay? Hey, there's some, your body, what's going on? Instead of, hey, what is our body communicating? We don't have those kinds of questions in our arsenal right now, especially in that setting. And so me, what I'm looking to push back on quite a bit, I'm trying to challenge the environment. And I'm working with a few executive teams where I'm saying, we have got to get out of this corporate executive room. You spent 9 hours in there today. So I love that you started bringing up movement, because that's one of the things I'm advocating for. Is I'm like, look, you all have your bodies locked up for 9 hours. All kinds of things are going on. There's no movement. We're not well rested. We're not eating right. We're not like, so this whole somatic.
Your body is just like nothing.
Yeah. And so that's a conversation I'm having is how do we challenge the environment, really get out of this kind of setting, more living room, more like big Airbnb, shared space, like take shoes off, sit on the back patio, play some games, see people like outside
of hi, who are you? Like we're like friends outside of Lighthouse. Like those moments 100%. Are so key.
Because you're going to be galvanizing your relational connection, which we know is the wire that trust is traveling on, and high performance and accountability and all those things. And you're going to be learning more about what's going on in each other. What are the things that lock you up or create that constriction, and you'll be able to ask better questions in those moments than, you good? Like that's literally
like obviously I'm not, bro.
Hey, you good? What's going on? Like,
because that's so like that's immediately like defensive posture on the way back. Yeah,
which is funny. I'll make a connection to my family. Sarah and Chris did our family why session, right? So we got to have and one of the things that came out, it's actually a core value statement for our fam now is check in versus check. And we would check each other, and it would be much like what I just said. And it'd be like, "You good? Are you okay? What's up?" And they're not great questions, right? And so we will just use the language now. Hey, checking in,
and that's like, so much like open.
Yeah. I would say Blakely's the best at it, the 11-year-old, and it's just.
She's the future owner of Lighthouse, correct?
According to her, 100%.
I know.
Yeah, but she will just come up, and before it was triggering for me to hear the question, "Are you okay?" I'd be like, because I'm already hearing failure.
Yeah.
Right. And so now the language is, "Hey, checking in." And I'm like, "Oh, thanks, kiddo." Right. And but we got there by that time together and creating that shared language. So anyways, I just feel like everything you were saying applies to the corporate environment in a really big way.
Yeah. Well, and one of the things I've even heard, my Chris is doing, because there's two Chris Fs.
I know.
I was like, is that your husband? I'm like, no, it's the other Chris F. Doing one of his series right now that he's doing, they've been doing like offsite meetings. And the depth, like obviously it's confidential, but just from what he has told me of just how close they feel, and the depth has been incredible with this group and how they're able just to see each other, right? Because it's...
And some people might hear what you're saying and go, "Oh, off-site, like at a hotel conference room." No, they are going
it's like
to
a massive Airbnb.
Yeah, cabins in the mountains.
And then they snowboard the next day, and
it's been fascinating.
Yeah,
they challenged our environment.
I was gonna say,
yeah, they were the ones who said, "Can we do the leadership series this way?"
Yeah,
and we were all in. Yeah.
Well, but in my first deliberative, like one of my strengths was like, that just sounds like a mess potentially waiting to happen. Like as HR, I was like, how does that work? So there's both sides of it. But it's like, are we willing to play and try?
Yeah.
One thing I want to say, kind of with our other conversation of all the parts and in the room and the like checking versus check-in and all of that, is the goal of a lot of the somatic work and the mindset work and the whole Lighthouse series. It's you can, what I like to call like your window of tolerance. So I often talk to my coaching clients about this. It's so if you think about your nervous system, we all kind of have like a set capacity where we're regulated. Like I'm within here, this is my window, I'm fine. You get maybe towards the edges of either the top or the bottom, and that's when you might start noticing, oh, leg doing this, that doing that, or somebody kind of withdrawing, right? So you have hyper aroused above the window of tolerance, and you have hypo, right? So hyper, somebody might be yelling, or they might leave the situation, their leg might be going crazy. Hypo, I don't know, in a meeting, it's maybe they're checked out, their body language, in real life. For me, hypo sometimes is like, Sarah, have you just been on your phone for like 30 minutes? Like, what are you doing? Like, not that that's inherently wrong, but I know when I'm like checked out on my phone and it's just me, like just kind of this. So what we're doing with all of the work that we do and all these tools, it's like you can expand that window of tolerance. So you can increase it. So like what used to set you off at here, now you have the capacity to hold it. I can have that hard conversation because I know that I'm good. But often that comes through actually doing it in real life, right? So you can it's like the dojo, you can
getting
practice
reps.
it,
Yeah.
You can do it all the time, but then going out and experiencing, okay, I did it, I'm safe, I didn't die, right? Our primitive brain is like, am I safe? Am I gonna die and get eaten by a bear? And then you continue to expand. So I think that's also, even with the body, I feel like that's also the range of emotion. Like, can I let myself feel the joy right? I feel like that's often one of my coaches says that he believes that's one of the most underfelt emotions. He's like, we'll stay in our grief or in our anger, like, but like, can we actually also stay in joy? Can we stay in the high? Because often a lot of us have thoughts when I'm, like, oh, what's gonna happen? Can't get too good.
Drop?
When's the shoe gonna get dropped? So all of these practices are just expanding our range as a human and our ability to hold more and stay regulated, right? It's not that we're gonna get dysregulated, Chris's stress book and all of that, because then you're just flatlined and you're dead. But it's like, how can I get back to center? Okay, yeah. Oh, quicker back to center. Oh, caught that in real time. Oh, my leg's going. Do I need to have a conversation? Do I need to ask for a break? Or as a leader, you're looking around the room and you're like, they're out. Like, let's take a 5-minute break.
Right.
So I feel like the nervous system is a huge key in understanding that and reading ourselves.
And when we take that 5-minute break, let's not corner that person and say, "Are you good?"
Right. Yeah. And then I think in that, it's like, it's on us and like understanding ourselves to know what to ask for in those minutes, to actually be able to say, I'm good right now. I just need to go for a walk.
Yeah.
Versus, feeling, but then in that you get triggered, right? Is it an authority thing?
Right.
Sorry, my nose is running. Like, is it an authority thing? Like, oh, I have to answer because it's Josh or it's whatever, versus do you have the inner capacity to hold your boundary?
Right.
And be like, no, I got to go take care of me for a minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah. No, it was well-timed break. See you in 5.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that all comes from so much work, on like yourself. Like, if I had to guess, most people are not in that space. They're not in that at that point in their life that they know themselves so well that they can recognize, like, hey, you know what? I'm missing the mark right here. I'm not my best self right now.
Yeah.
Like, I need to take a break. Like, I mean, I can speak from my own experience. Like, very recently, I've just learned about like asking for that break and so I mean, we all know about like, if you're not there, like, just ask for that break. But to recognize it in the moment where all the emotions are so high, it takes a lot of like deep work before you even get to that place, right? And like, then when you're in that place, actually having the guts, I would say, to like recognize it and speak up and say, you know what, I'm not being my best self right now, and this is not going to go the way that we both want it to go. I need a 5-minute break. Like, can we come back to this, or whatever that is. So anyways, with that, I think would you say like life coaching is a great dojo for that, like a good vehicle, a good path to get to there? Or what other things, I mean, other than like grabbing a book at self-development, like what kind of tips could we give some people that are interested in like, hey, how do I get to that self-awareness and knowing myself better?
Yeah, I think it can be as simple as just pausing for like a minute and just, what do I notice, right? And without wanting to change it, without wanting to do anything with it, but just starting to be like, what do I notice? And checking in with your body. Like, that's a simple thing that you can start to do just to build the awareness. And I think I've been using the word too, and I noticed when you used it too, the word work, it's a lot of work. I think it's also like, what's the intent behind showing up, because sometimes I've gone in with like, I want to fix this in me. I don't like this in me. Well, that's coming from a place of judgment, right? Like, sure, maybe it's like, I don't like the fruit of this action in my life, but the idea of it being work, it is work, but just also like going to the gym is work. But like, on the other side that you're going to be healthier and stronger. Because I think some people can go into it as work, but it's just another part of their pattern of perfectionism, of whatever it might be. Like, I'm gonna be perfect at this, but you can't be perfect at figuring out what it's like to be a human. It's just having the grace. So I think just checking in with your body, books, of course, going to groups where people are like talking about stuff like this. And coaching has been one of the most phenomenal things for me, right? Like, I've had therapy, I've had coaching. I've also been in a lot of coaching containers where you're just exposed in all that you are, right? And it's what you bring to it. You can be in a container and not get anything.
Disentangle those for us. Since
which ones?
Therapy, counseling, coaching.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. Yeah.
I think coaching is still relatively new.
It is.
I think there's a lot of misconceptions about the business of it, the market. It's an interesting...
Especially online, right?
Yeah.
You too can make $400,000 in like a day.
Totally. And so I think I'd imagine there's people across the board, some that are like very committed to therapy, some that are like, no, you need a counselor, and others are like, what do you see as the difference in those containers?
This is really healthy because I have this conversation a lot. So traditional therapy is psychiatry, medication, right? Therapists and coaches don't deal with medication. That's a psychiatrist. Therapy is well, I mix it all up though. So therapy is essentially like looking back. How do we look at the childhood things? How do we look at, the different functions of growing up, and how do we solve for those things? And even in that, you have a lot of different therapy. In my opinion, one of the best modalities of therapy is EMDR, right? That's like where the rapid eye movement. And so it kind of helps you bypass your brain so you can break down trauma and metabolize it in a different way. So it's a really, really, it's a good modality. But then you also just have talk therapy. You have different forms of therapy, which is great for certain contexts. Now, coaching is essentially where are you and where do you want to be and how do we get there? Now, once again, I don't believe that we can't forget like where we came from. But so it's a mix of all of those. And I think the coaching industry in general, the thing that is tricky is that it's not regulated. And the thing that's beautiful about it is that it's not regulated.
Yeah.
So in that, I mean, there is like, you have like ICF, International Coaching Federation, which I did get certified. I did all the work to get that like approval. I haven't renewed it in a while. But even then they have this certain modality. So like the inner child stuff, the somatics, the body, like none of that would be considered. It's off the table.
Yeah.
Even like art therapy and coaching and all those kind of things. So if someone was looking for a coach, I would ask them, what kind of training have they had? Because you can go take a 90-minute test and say that you're a coach. You can just say you're a coach. So I think that's where there's some valid mistrust online. It's like, okay, what are your credentials? Or just because you have done something doesn't mean you know how to coach somebody else in their space. And the art of holding space for somebody is a very different thing. So
Would you say the opposite could be true?
Which one?
You said just because you've done something doesn't mean you be a good coach at it. Could the opposite be true, that like even if you haven't done something or haven't experienced it, could you be a good coach in it?
So I've had this question with Chris a lot, but I look at sports,
Uh-huh.
right? So if you think about it, like
Yeah.
you're watching like tennis, their coach has never won what they're about to win.
Yeah.
You know, like you go to Wimbledon. is your
Wimbledon. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was blanking. I'm like, what is that? The Masters?
Yeah. I don't know golf. You know what I mean? Or football. You know, maybe every once in a while there's a player that's turned into a coach and stuff. But like, so in that, I do think that you can, but that's because they have mastered the skills and it's the mindset. So
I saw an interesting LinkedIn post. There was a guy looking for a coach and he gave this criteria like must have, and it basically was like, must have exceeded me in every facet of life, kind of a thing. And a handful of people were challenging it, and I was super grateful for the challenges. It was like, hey, like I'd encourage you to think about this different. Just because somebody hasn't done, this or this doesn't mean that they can't be a good coach to you and help you find expansion in some of these areas. I was in a really interesting conversation actually like last week. Yeah. And it was about therapy to coaching and like kind of like what's the difference, and we've got my oldest in therapy right now and having some conversations and doing something and primarily it seems to be a listening posture. Yeah. Right. So you're talking about looking back. There's a lot of listening. It's a lot of how does that make you feel? It's a lot of, probably best type approach. And in my conversation with this person I was talking to, they were like, yeah, and there's just no tools, and it's like in therapy, they're not like giving you proactive tools to move forward. And I'm like, that to me feels like the difference in coaching. And as I was literally live time, as I was verbalizing this, I was like, have you seen Stutz on Netflix? I haven't seen it. So Stutz on Netflix, you haven't seen it. It's Phil Stutz, and he is Jonah Hill's therapist.
Oh, okay.
And Jonah Hill does this documentary movie on Phil Stutz, like the process of literally of Jonah, working with him as a client. And in the first 10 minutes, he talks about how being in the therapy space, they told him you can't tell them to do no advice. Like you can't give them any and he was like, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Like he literally out the gate was like, absolutely not. I'm not going to do that. I have to tell them what to do. I have to give them a tool. And so I was watching and going like, he is a therapist. He might even be a psychiatrist because I think he has access to medication. But it looked like he was making the transition to coaching. And fun fact, Shrinking?
Yeah.
Shrinking, Harrison Ford's character is modeled after Phil Stutz. So Phil Stutz has Parkinson's. But all of the concepts that Harrison Ford's character introduces in Shrinking are Phil Stutz tools. Fascinating. And it was just this like live time awareness connection I had on like the difference. To me, the difference feels like giving people tools to navigate life.
Yeah. The goal isn't that like I'm your coach forever. Or it can change. Like I have some personal clients that we started out maybe more intensive and now we meet once a month, you know, but because it's almost just like you want that check-in or that tune up. And then I also was going to say, when you were talking about that show in Lighthouse, I feel like there's the difference also between coaching and consulting. So if we take like the next layer down the road, the Coaching Federation thing,
ICF, yeah.
they also do not want you sharing any opinions.
Right.
So it's very much just like the client has all the resources they need to figure out what they want. You just need to ask all the good questions and then they can come to a conclusion, right? So I think it's a blend. I feel like I blend all of them except for the psychiatry. It's a blend of also the consulting though, right? Because I'm also like, dude, like if I hired you as like a business coach, but you're just gonna sit there and let me, I'm like, tell me what to do. Like why am I paying you the money?
Right.
I want some, yes, help me kind of discover what I want, but there's also a blend of consult me. Like,
Totally.
hello, tell me, what am I doing?
Well, and in our world, it's like, well, you're working with a bunch of other organizations and executives. What are they? You know what I mean? Like, how can we share some of that knowledge? And I've seen this over here, and I, this client had success trying this. And you're right. There is you don't do active facilitation, so you do coaching, you do some 360s, you wear that consultant hat. I joke the 3 hats are like facilitator hat, where I'm facilitating a room. Then there's the coaching hat, where you're really kind of coming alongside someone, and there's the consultant hat, where hey, this is what I'm seeing, and you might want to think about this, and that is very different than the ICF approach. It's very different than therapy. Some people will call their executive coaching work therapy, and I'm kind of here for that. I'm okay with that.
I would say with some of my clients, I feel like it is. That is exactly.
Totally.
Yeah, it's interesting. And to the hat thing, going back to way back in the beginning, I think that's also healthy for relationships.
Say more. What do you mean?
What hat am I wearing? Because so talking to Chris, sometimes you're coming to your partner, and he'd be like, do you want like husband hat? Do you want coach hat? Do you want pastor hat? Do you want, this was when we were pastoring a church years ago. And I think even that can really help clarify what someone's looking for. And so I love that. That just made me think back to that previous.
I offer people, it's mostly men. I offer men the question, when she comes to you, say, how would you like me to listen?
Yeah.
Which is kind of similar. It's like, which hat am I putting on? How do you, because they naturally default to fixer hat.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, problem solver, fixer hat. And it's like, she's asking you to wear a different hat, man. Like, just hold space hat.
Yeah.
Space hat.
Can I just go something completely random?
Totally.
I'm Sarah. That's what I do.
Yeah.
I think because I have this space and I don't know what the demographics that are listening to this will be, but I just want to also like celebrate all the men that I have coached in Lighthouse and all the 360s that I do. Because in that, like, wanting to fix it, like, I get to have conversations that a lot of people don't hear. And I think even right now in our world, there's a lot of fuck you to men. And there's a lot of really bad shit that's also happened. And I just want to hold space for that. And so I just want to just celebrate the men who are doing the work, who are trying to show up, who, when I do these 360s, are like, I just want to provide for my family. I want to do a great job at work. I want to, like, the heart intent is so good, and the strength, and just how much they often carry. Sure, yes, the women too, but I mean, right now, I just want to say that, like, it's a lot, like being on the road and the finances, and like, even with you, Josh, like just with Lighthouse and all that you carry, and like taking care of all of us so well, and then you have your own family, and just the showing up to that, like the range and the capacity and the like inner fortitude and strength that takes. I just want to, as a woman, I just want to recognize that for anyone that's listening, but also, just you guys as well.
Thank you.
Wow.
That felt amazing.
Wow.
Well, and I know there's a lot of men out there that will feel like I do right now. Like, thank you. That I feel seen, and you're right. There are a lot out there putting in the effort, it's funny, that whole work idea, like, people will just say like, oh, you can tell they've done the work, or oh, he's doing the work, and it's like, that can have a bit of, it's interesting. I'm still processing that. There's like a bit of maybe a negative connotation to it, right? But
say more about that.
Just how you were saying with Patrick, like when you call it work, there's this there can be a connotation around that idea. some might have an aversion to, I don't do, and so I see the pursuit of growth. I see the pursuit of like, heightened awareness, better self, kind of all those things. And it's super encouraging for, the people that we get to encounter that are moving into that. Right.
Yeah.
And you do get to have a lot of those 360 conversations, coaching conversations. Tell us, like, I'm curious, do you have a high level, like, that you would call like intent or approach to coaching? Like, I talk a lot about, like, my kind of canned is like, let's close the gap, right? Let's close the gap between where we are today and what we're potential, our fullest potential, what we're capable of. Do you have kind of like high level ways that you talk about how you engage with coaching?
That's a good question. I have a lot of different ways that I engage.
I know.
Because I have, like, that's my individualization when I see the person and kind of figure out where they're going.
That's a Gallup strength.
Yeah,
Okay.
Gallup strength.
Individual.
Yeah.
Tell us about it. What does it mean?
So it's just the ability to hold each and every unique story separately. And so the nuance of how to engage individuals differently in the individualization is, like, huge for me. That can also be a hang up because then I don't ever want to say anything because I'm like, well, how's that person going to hear it? How's that person? Like, so that's where coming on a podcast where I'm just speaking in general, my individualization is like, oh, but what if somebody else hears it and then that's not true for them?
Super interesting.
Does that make
so
sense?
you're like holding space for pockets and different.
Or I'll remember, someone's like story from like 6 years ago. So when somebody says something that might be funny, I'm like, oh, but that person, like, are they gonna? But that's, you can overfunction. So the shadow side of the strength is overfunctioning.
Ball hogging.
Yeah, just being like, or overprotecting of like, they don't. That's fine. But it also helps me on a one-on-one. It really helps me like dive in. So as far as an overall approach, really, it's like, how can I best support you today? What's been most alive today? But if I'm working ongoing, the first, 15 minutes are anything new, but also kind of following up with what was the session before. How things shifted, have you done this? And then kind of workshopping what's next. Now, if it's a client, who we're on a committed, 6-month thing together, more private, then there's kind of like just some things I want to take them through. Like I would say even the first 5 or 6 episodes of my podcast, understand parts, understand your nervous system, understand paradox, and kind of developing that. And then it's also just holding space for real time. And I think that's why sometimes it's good to have a session set, even if you're like, well, I don't need it today. It's like, okay, but sometimes you just need to like clean the drain. Like sometimes you just gotta like, you know what I mean? Because you never know what's gonna come up. And that also perpetuates this thing that it's only when there's a problem.
Totally.
Compared to
maintenance.
What if maintenance or what if things are good? Okay,
Yeah.
now what if I actually have a minute to think about the future right now?
Yeah. Let's double down on that.
Yeah. So I don't know if I have a philosophy.
Well, I can tell you what I'm hearing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's pretty cliche, especially in the coaching world. But I'm literally hearing I meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether that's high level in the individualization, meeting them where they are and what they need, or if it's more in the granular of the session to session, you're checking in. What's alive today? What's real? Like that's meeting them exactly where they are. And we talk about that a lot with coaching, right? Is it's like, we can't do anything for the other person.
Yeah.
And our first job is to meet them where they are and align with what they want. Like you can't engage with coaching without being able to answer the what do you want question.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that makes it, sometimes the circumstances are different, but that's more few is when like HR, like somebody's on like a performance
like remedial
thing.
coaching.
Remedial, that's different because then it's like, hey, we need to see these outcomes. So there's that section as well. I wasn't really thinking about that.
So what you're referring to there is sometimes in organizations, people are having challenges. Sometimes those challenges can be on a work product, like a competency level. And so they're on maybe like a performance improvement plan of these are metrics you really need to hit.
Yeah.
And a lot of the organizations we work with will tap on our shoulder to say, we want them to meet this. It's not, this is not trying to exit them out, which is sometimes how the employee will receive that. Those can be a challenge for a coach to come in and meet. And what you have to establish trust in the partnership. I'm on your team. I'm always telling them, if we're not able to like move you to where this performance plan is asking, we both fail.
Yeah.
Like that's a that's not a good reflection on, and usually that's a Okay, I see that. Right. So moving this
Like we're in
needle
this together.
We're it's gonna look
Let's
good for
go.
you. It's gonna look good for me, right?
Yeah.
It can also be on the other side. It can be sometimes there's character gaps. So that performance improvement plan can look a lot like your interaction with people, your relationships.
I mean, relationships a lot.
That one probably comes up more, right? So yeah, those can be fun. Those can be fun.
Yeah.
Can I bring it back a couple
Yeah.
notches? Just two things that I took notes of, and I wanted to just maybe ask. One is an ask, and one is just a maybe recommendation for everybody listening. The movie Inside Out. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
I saw the first one a long time ago. Yeah.
Emotions.
Yes, emotions. Like we've been talking about, joy and anger and frustration and all these things. And I think in that movie, I feel like they did such a great job in just showing how all of those, we need all of those emotions in order to coexist. Like we can't just, like I think the movie there, like pushing sadness away. Like sadness was such a bad thing. Like, no, you're destroying this, you're doing all this stuff. But the power that has, right? And so I think in the same way, what you mentioned earlier too about your coach, that joy, we need to bring that joy also and like hold it, because as adults, honestly, like we are so much more focused on like all the stuff that can go wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know at what point that happens in our lives, but like I can see like my kids, like they're all so focused on joy. They get sad for a little bit and it's joy, right? Which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I look at my life and I'm like, man, I should be doing more of that. I should be hanging on to more of that joy when I have the joy, instead of just like being like, yeah, how long is this going to last? Or like, when am I going to dip down and get into that sadness or that dark part, right? So anyway, so for anybody, listening and you haven't seen it, I know it's a kid's movie, but it has...
I don't know if it's a kid's movie.
Maybe not.
It's animated, but it's deep puddles.
Yeah, I mean, even the interactions between husband and wife, like it's such a great, like
I
their
need to go
little...
rewatch it.
Oh.
I think I saw it at the drive-in, so that's why I was like, I was in and out. Kids were in the car. We took a bunch of kids.
The piece you're talking about is hilarious, where she's trying to talk to him at the dinner table, and then it goes into the wife's head, and it's like, call the husband again, summons the husband again, right? And then another one's like, we left him for the surf instructor in Costa Rica or whatever it was. Yeah, it was so funny.
It's an amazing movie, powerful.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think there's so much in there. And then the other thing I wanted to ask you, just a little more, if you can give me a little more details on that, like hormonal part that you were talking about, like that you check in with women, like, obviously I'm married and so I love my wife, and so what kind of tools are there? Like, I that's so foreign to me. I've never even heard about like you can check your hormones. Like, is there
That's
like
funny. I had it written down because I wanted to come back to it too.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, is there like a thing that you put in your arm and it's like, oh, this is you're orange now. I don't know. Like, how does that work? Because I need that.
No, it's good. Yeah.
I want you to take this one, but I would say for me, the similarity is like I'm going to turn 42 in a couple weeks, and it's like 1 week. Dang it. I'm turning 42, and in this window, like, I had a doctor say, well, let's get some blood work done.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? I'm not like 80. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Right? There was like a negative connotation to, and really all it was like, let's just see where you're at. Like, let's get some data. Let's understand. Right. And the blood work came back fine. I mean, I could use some, I think, like vitamin D and maybe like B12 or something like that. But, that felt really similar when you said that. It was like, hey, like, check your hormones. Like, this is an opportunity to kind of just see at a bio level, like, how things are going, right?
Yeah. And so what I often, we can go back to the
joy and
joy
emotions
thing in a
and-
minute, but yeah. So often I feel like because I did, a nutrition, I don't know, I did this, School of Integrative Nutrition, a year-long like program for that, and I used to help women with weight. And then I stopped wanting to help women with weight when I was like, yeah, when someone's in their 20s, great. When they're in their 30s, fine. Then you try to do I ordered some course on hormones because I was like, how do I actually help my clients? Because I was finding it harder and harder for them. And then that's when I was like, I don't want to be a doctor. Like, this is not what I want. And I was like, I actually want to go more towards the other coaching. But all that to say, I feel like for women, it's good to do a baseline even when you're younger, like 30, 35, because what is your baseline? It's different than everybody else. And so it should just be normal. So then when you're actually going to, like when you're in your 40s or your 50s, it's like, okay, well, what was my normal? How off am I? And so doing blood work. Often you're gonna have to find a naturopath that you trust, and you're gonna have to pay out of pocket. And it's expensive, but your sanity also is, and just your piece of life. And it is controversial in some people, so I'm not gonna say do it or don't do it. You do your own research for, women listening, and you figure out what you want. But really, if you think about when the hormones start declining, if you think about like a woman when she's younger, procreate, like just biologically, like if you don't want that, that's fine. But biologically, our bodies are wired to procreate and find a mate. A lot of these hormones, maybe like I'm generalizing this, make us nicer, make us more appeasing, make us more like, okay, yeah, like let's do this because, you know, it's the nurturing, it's all those hormones. Those hormones start to dip and you've got anger and you've got rage and people are like, what is wrong with me? And you have women setting boundaries who've never set boundaries and you're like, what happened to my wife? Like she used
ain't
to
trying
just
to
be...
find a mate anymore.
No, she's not, right? And it's also, it's moving through that. You know, you have like the archetypes, you know, you have like the maiden moving to the mother, moving to the sage, you know, like it's this, it is a transition period. And our culture is so obsessed with youth for men but especially for women, right? Like be young, stay young, don't wrinkle, don't do this, don't whatever, like, and whatever anyone's philosophy on, that is part of it. So not only is it a transition
I'm
for...
sorry.
What are you laughing?
I saw a meme like yesterday and it said...
We gotta get you off social media,
I know.
Josh.
It said like 60 years old, 30 years ago, and it was a picture of Betty White. And
Right,
then,
and
it said
now-
60-year-old now, and it was like Jennifer Aniston. And
Yeah.
it's like, what? Things
Yeah.
have drastically
Yes.
changed, right?
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
And you get to care for yourself, right? Everyone has their own version of what like being beautiful
Aging
or what
looks
looks like for
or-
them.
yeah.
But imagine when what you're doing, like you've had a certain way of like living for, even for me, right? I had a kidney transplant, which played into this, but like even right now I'm working with a macro coach because even as a health coach, quote unquote doing everything right, but like you're gaining weight. And so you have women who are looking at the mirror and being like, I am doing quote unquote everything I know to do right and feeling completely out of control. Like I have no control with what's happening to my body, whether it's weight, whether it's energy, whether it's capacity. For me, there's this, sometimes I just like lose my words and I'm like, what the heck, Sarah? Like, you know, and that's, you know, in this I'm 47. So, you know, perimenopause, like that space. So looking at my hormones is just a way that I've been able to help support that. Also for women, which would help, you know, is like libido. You're thinking about that. Like if you get your testosterone checked, like mine was at like 7. So I'm like, of course I love my man, but why am I like not even like considering sex? Well, until I got my testosterone picked and I'm like, all right, let's go. Like, it's just like for women, there's all of these things that are playing into it, but it's also progesterone, it's estrogen, there's so much that they can look into and get the support so that they don't just feel lost and isolated in this like, what is happening to me kind of situation.
Yeah, you talked about there's a 7. So are there like certain charts of like, hey, this is what a healthy-ish, you know, like average maybe in the world should look
I'm not like,
or?
I'm not an expert in that.
Okay.
But the thing that I do love about my naturopath, which he's out in Colorado, I don't know, and he's like full, so I don't know if you could take him. But like he'll actually also test my labs with different companies every other time because they will have different markers. But as a practitioner, he's like, this is what I see is good for women across the board. Even though if they do this brand of test, it'll say your range should be here. This one, it should be here. So just getting the support, I think that they need, and also understanding the symptoms. I think it's being a little bit more talked about. You know, on Instagram, there's a few, you know, women that I follow that are doctors that, you know, ringing ears and just stuff that you would never think. You just think hot flashes. Oh, if she's not having hot flashes, it's way deeper than just hot flashes.
I'll vulnerably lean in here a little bit and say hormones have intimidated me. If I think about parts of me and like core stories, I could probably go back and say my mom was probably really verbal about the hormonal shifts and changes in a way that they were almost weaponized a little bit. Like I just remember her being like, I'm PMSing right now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God.
So I'm not
like,
responsible for anything.
kinda. And like, you know, I was like, oh, does that mean pack my suitcase? Because I should get out of here, you know? Like it just was.
Yeah.
And so there was this real negative kind of connotation around the hormones idea for me, even to where it's like, I may have wrongfully, you know, created this, like, don't use hormones as an excuse. Like, you know, you can mindset your way out of hormones or, you know, any of those things. And as a dad of 3 girls, I should say now as a dad of 2 women, and having another one, like hormones are very real.
Yeah.
And it's actually going to be counterproductive to what I want in relationships and let's just call it vibes in the house if I try to just ignore
Pretend
those
it
and
doesn't
pretend
exist.
that doesn't exist or it's
Yeah.
not at play. Like it's very, very real, to the point where I'm letting them educate me, right? Like, what's going on? Let's talk about this. Like, what are you experiencing? And not to the point of like having blood work and knowing that,
Yeah.
but I just want to,
Yeah.
I want to gently advocate for like leaning into
Yeah.
that idea. I think sometimes as men, because we don't, I'm probably overgeneralizing here, we don't understand it.
Right. Well, I
And
don't think women have understood it, Josh.
that's fair.
It is so
Yeah.
like so much medical stuff has been done as male as like, you know, the study subject.
Totally.
And so even like my female friends and I have conversations like we're still learning and we're actually women or we're going through it. And so I think it's just now even becoming. So I think it's not just men.
Yeah.
I think women as well.
I'm thinking of the Knocked Up scene where she's having hormones and he goes off and he's like, you know, F you, not you, Allison,
Yeah.
but you hormones, F you. And he just goes off.
Right?
And like me and my sister have always said that line to each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's really my context for hormones. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you got them going on, like F those hormones, you know?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, that's not healthy.
Yeah.
They're at play. It's a
Yeah.
biological thing happening. And
Yeah.
we need to get curious about it.
And I think even tracking it, right? And I think as a woman, it's my responsibility. Like I don't get to just be psycho
Right.
or like abuse the people in my space. But that's also where the self-understanding and the ownership comes on me. Do I know my cycle? Do I know where I'm at? So that I can say, I'm not going to engage in that right now because I might not show up as my best self. Yes, are there moments where you're trying to figure it all out? Sure. But even then, we're still responsible humans, right? None
Yep.
of this stuff negates the fact that like I am responsible to how I show up to you, how I show up to you. And as a partner, there's apps where you can like share cycles. Like, so you can understand. I remember when I was before with Lighthouse and stuff, when I was just doing my own coaching business, literally 1 week a month, I'd always be like, husband, I need some coaching. And he started to ask me, okay, where are you at in your cycle? Because 1 week before my period would start, I wanted to blow it all up. I wasn't an entrepreneur. I hated what I did. I needed to go like, so he wasn't saying like, he wasn't discrediting me asking for support. He was just like, she just needs like a walk right now. Or she like, it's
almost a cheat
It's-
question of
it
how do you want me to
really
listen?
is. It is.
It's like where you at in
Yeah.
your cycle. It'll
Right.
really inform
Right.
my You got a name of an app?
right. I use the Flow app.
It's literally
It's like-
called The Flow?
Yeah.
Nice.
Flow app. It's pink. I don't have my phone over here.
It's pink.
Yeah.
I would've thought
that's
red.
what the little thing is on. But it helps you understand, right? Or even for a woman to understand in the coaching world, for me, it's like you can't, men run on a 24-hour cycle. Women don't. We're run by the moon. And so can we give ourselves understanding to know that we're not just machines that run the same? So it's like, yeah, when you're ovulating and you're all of a sudden you're at the gym and you're like ready to go and like you want your man and you're just like all these things, like understand like your hormones play into that. And there's nothing wrong with you that like a week later you're like, wow, like why can't I lift as much weight? Or why do I feel a little
Fascinating.
bit more tired? It's all of this ebbs and flows with our cycle.
Our listeners are probably noticing that Patrick and I are taking a lot more notes today.
Oh my goodness, do more pages.
Because I mean, it's literally like, I don't know, are we half the population? I don't know.
Totally. Yeah.
So it's like, if we can understand that and normalize it, right? But that's also where I think, so like, world has just gotten kind of weird. Like everything's either like sexualized or it's this, or we don't talk about that, it's gross. Instead of just being like, the beauty that brings like people onto this planet comes from a woman's cycle. So if we appreciate that, and that's also masculine feminine dynamics. We
Right.
talk about that with coaching, right? How do we all develop our own inner masculine, which is that containment, for our feminine to also be more of the flow and the free? And we can do that within ourselves, but we can also do that with our partners too. Like, you know, sometimes it's like, I just want Chris to be like the containment and I just need to like be a little like this with communicating. And then it's like, I just like calm down because somebody held me, like somebody contained that with consent, right? I'm not always consent. Sometimes I'm just like, blah, and he's just, whoa. So that is not safe, you know? So, but that's through trial and error. And I think that leads to emotions. If we go back to that show, how to express, I think it's leaning in. I don't know if there actually is a way, but there's also practices. Some of the somatic work I do, it's like, I'll put together a playlist that is more like songs that are going to be opening up grief or anger. I would say anger has been my biggest healer because it was the one emotion that I was like anti.
Can't feel. Yeah.
Well, and I was like, I won't. Yeah, like I just didn't like anger. Grew up with a lot of like stuff flying around the house and craziness and all of that. And so but in that of my judgment of anger, I completely blocked off what anger also is just like a truth. Like anger points to what's alive, what's true, is there something that's been, you know, violated, or a boundary, or you good, or something like that, you know? So it's just like, how do we do that? And so in that, it was me, well, the first time I actually like lost my anger, a fun story. It was a weekend. It was one of those weekends as a parent where I was like, I'm done with everybody. I'm just whatever. It was a Sunday afternoon, and we had just had like an hour conversation, which is too long, with one of my kids, about pushing boundaries and respecting people's private space and just all these things. And I had been working with a woman who was also at our church, who had kind of like had me explore emotions for the first time and be like, Sarah, you just keep everything nice and quiet, which is just like, essentially you're just lying about your life and going through it, whatever.
Oh, I love that voice.
I think I know her.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So I've been kind of exploring some of these things of actually just being honest about things that I didn't like, or, you know, and just, you know, whatever, all the things. So this same said child, I was vacuuming the floor, came over, you know, those like flappy sticks that like, like you go like this and it like wraps around you.
Wrap bracelets.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just walked up to me and just did that, but it like popped my knuckles or something in a way where it just like hurt so bad. You guys, you know what I did?
I think I heard this story.
I took the vacuum and I picked it up and I just started slamming it on the floor. And that is like the most insane thing that Sarah, because I prided myself on not being dramatic, on not being whatever, of just being like, you know,
anger.
always, you know, had the perfect response. I think Chris was on the couch. My youngest was on the couch. The child that did the thing went into his room, right? And I was like, whoa. And like, talk about like flooded nervous system. I was so like I was shaking, because I don't ever even, it was also like, I didn't allow myself to feel that level of rage, like, or that frustration, because it hurt. And I was just like, this hurt, and I'm frustrated. And I just like slammed the thing, which is so ridiculous in my like prefrontal cortex brain, right? And then I went upstairs and I was like, whoa, you're just like shaking here. I went back downstairs. I was like, I gotta go talk to this child, right? Because that was completely like uncalled for, like my reaction. And just let him know, hey, mom broke the vacuum. Mom is responsible for her own choices. And I do want you to know that you can influence the environment for other people, but it's not on you what I did with that, like how I handled it. But in that moment, it was like, I think like a wind, like something cracking to like, to let myself be quote unquote that out of control was so new, because I'd stayed so just like measured, guarded, like never do that. Because I judged someone in my life growing up that used to do that. And I'm like, I'm never going to be like her. I'll never be a mom like that. So I did it. And in that, where's the paradox and where's the shame? Can I love myself in that? And so that was kind of the crack of a journey of me discovering, opening to my anger. And I will say I went to the opposite extreme. I mean, Chris could tell you a lot of stories, but it was just, it's almost like, you know, you swing the pendulum and then you got to like come back.
You unlock it.
You unlock it and you got to come back to center. And I would say it's been so freeing, because I actually can be honest and truthful and not just be just like the sweet little good girl that you're supposed to be. I don't know. So yeah.
Wow.
Telling on myself.
Wow.
And then I had to go buy a new vacuum, right? Because your consequences have choices. And I'm like, this is not how I want to be spending another $150, $200, Sarah. But what it represented was like a breaking of always being like so self-controlled, doing the right thing, a lot of Christian stuff in there of just like almost like a little robotic human compared to like, do I think it was right or wrong? I don't think that matters. Yeah. But what it was a moment where I was just so present to what was true and alive inside, and I actually just let it out. I don't know where that came from.
Oh, that was a lot. I love it. Are you a Dr. Becky Kennedy fan? Do you know her in the parenting world?
I followed her sometimes, yeah. I feel like I found her when my kids were a little bit older.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was like you were past the real pivotal window.
Yeah.
We started today, you said two things are true, which I know is just a description of paradox, but she like really doubles down on the two things are true thing. But just when you were describing it, going back to said child, even though you narrowed it down to 2 out of 3, I have a pretty good sense.
Well,
I know
you know
who it
my
is.
children. So
yeah. I'm like, okay. And there's a line, is essentially what you were describing when you went to have the conversation that Becky uses that I think is really powerful, which is, you know, going back to your kids and saying, hey, just like you, I'm still learning how to regulate my emotions. And I find myself, unfortunately, I find myself saying that, semi often. It's just coming back when I come back around to do that repair.
Yeah.
It's just reminding them, hey, just like you, I'm still learning on how to regulate my emotions.
Yeah.
And, some of them get the better of me from time to time. So thank you for your grace.
Yeah.
And I want to keep talking through these things with you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's so good. And it's all the areas of being a human, right? Like, and I know we're talking about female cycle and all that, but also with emotions, it's like desire. Like, where are we cut off from our desire just in life and what we want, and even sexual desire and pleasure and all of those things? Like, it all gets to be on the table, but it's like, where are we like muted or not open or expressed? And like within ourselves, like, how do we just continue to find more freedom and expansion within containers that are safe for whatever that looks like for us,
Yeah, I love that. We had a decent sized conversation with Chris Free about Unbound and the attention and kind of the connection between the attention and desires and the ability to go, internal and even just come to terms with your desires, let alone communicate them or share them with others.
Or not be ashamed or all the pieces in between there.
Okay, you mentioned something, and I want to like come back around to it. But let's go back to like the very beginning of like when meeting you.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a ton about coaching.
Yeah.
I shared before, like I sought your husband out as my coach, right? So I hired him to do coaching work with me. And we quickly got to a why process.
Yeah.
And you were you teamed up to, co-facilitate my why. So, okay, we'll start there. Anything that comes up for you and having sat through my why or, exploring that together?
Well, I think that was just special on so many levels.
I think that was like the second time I hung out with you. Like, I think I met you at the park.
I didn't know if that was my first. I met you at the park because you and Chris were meeting and I was walking with one of the boys maybe. Yeah, I have 3 boys, so we haven't said that, but yeah.
Yep. And then it was
the why process, which is like sharing
5 hours of me just going as deep as humanly possible.
Yeah. I think the thing that I recall is just like, I just love you so much. Like, and it was such a sacred, beautiful thing because someone that is like as strong as you, like I have so much like respect for now. Like at the time I didn't even know, but even in your why process, just the way that you operate in life and the way that you think. And my husband, obviously, like I know his world and his people and his standards and the way that he talked about you. I was like, oh, who is this guy? Like for my husband to feel like he met his match in a lot of ways, but also you guys are very complementary and different. I'm like, I was super intrigued just because the level of respect that he had. And then for me to get to go into the room and do the why and just like who you were and how like just how hungry you are, like as a man, as a dad, as a business, as a husband, as like, and your 3 girls, right? Because so much of my why, which you did, my dad was so influential, like in my life. So seeing someone actively be that, and half the time, it sounds so whatever. It might sound prideful, but I'm like, half the reason I'm as amazing as I am is I think because the dad I had. Like I had a dad who loved me, who believed in me, who did all this. My individual is not to shame people that don't have that.
Like she's already holding space.
But that's just my truth. So just seeing that, it was just such a gift. And I had no idea how it would all unfold from there.
Right.
Yeah. And I think your belief in me, like outside of that, like to have somebody, like I have so many friends who are like, where do I find a Josh? Right? Because they know, like when I was going through my Muse program, which is a lot of my embodiment work, and like that container is a mastermind of 16 women plus our 2 leaders for, a year and a half. It's like, well, Josh, like a lot of how I've been able to be is the way that you also have believed in me and provided just like work and trust and built that.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she dropped a little nugget in there after you and Chris facilitated my why. In the why world, when we talk about discovering or finding your why and going through that, they really encourage you not to have someone facilitate it who's really, really close, right? So it wouldn't have been appropriate for Brianna to facilitate my why. It wouldn't have been appropriate for Chris to facilitate Sarah's why, although he really wanted to be in that room. He really wanted to be in that room. And so, I mean, just the amount of trust that Chris demonstrated in tapping mine and Brianna's shoulder to say, would we facilitate Sarah's why?
And me, Josh.
I know.
Even though I am a coach and I see people's, to like get into my inner world, like it's I also value it so much, and it is so special and sacred. So that says a lot about my trust as well.
Yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah.
So in the season of like meeting you, and we'll call it on ramping into the relationships, we're doing the why process. You had something very big looming.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how you mentioned the kidney transplant, but you were this was imminent. It hadn't happened yet. It was coming up. I mean, a lot of feels, stress, nerves for you. I was probably getting them secondhand because I was really part of Chris's support system in that season and window. But yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah. So so there was a season of life that felt pretty intense. That was so my youngest is 12 right now. His name is Nathan. He was born in February of 2014, and then I might get the days wrong.
Sure.
But then in like April, I ended up in the hospital and found out my kidneys were at 15% total function. And I was told that I would need a kidney transplant immediately, which my sassy little self, I told the nephrologist, I was like, the Chinese can cure me. Don't tell me that. We'll see what happens.
And that's coming from living 5 years in China.
I lived in China for 5 years. So, and this is just my natural posture is often like, don't tell me. Like, don't tell me what's possible for me. Don't tell me that. And so that season, but let me just say that season. So I had Nathan, found out he needed a kidney transplant. That was in April. In May, my dad died unexpectedly of a heart attack. So I was 34. He was only 63. He was taking his PAC test for the fire crew, and he had a heart attack. Came back from his funeral, went straight to a 1-month trip to China because we already had it planned because we wanted everybody. We'd lived there for 5 years. We wanted everybody to meet Nathan, and we thought we can get meds. So and then came back from that, and then in June, I think it was, we took over pastoring a church. And then in August, I told Chris, like, I don't know what a mental breakdown looks like, but something like I need some help. Like, it's just too much I think just the shock of my dad was, and I mean,
everything.
You need a transplant. I just was a newborn.
A little bit going on. So.
Yeah. And my hormones, speaking of hormones, they dipped a little bit heavier each time. And then, I mean, come to find out, I wasn't just normal tired. I'm like, you're operating. Here's the best story though, you guys. Okay. So Chris and I have had 5 miscarriages.
Hold on. You said this is the best story.
Listen to it. I know, right? So there is all that, not to like gloss over that. And I know that's a sensitive subject for a lot of people.
Sure.
Everyone's journey is different. But when I met with the nephrologist, that first appointment, and I was just kind of going over my story, he was like, I don't even know how you got pregnant in the first place. Like, essentially, like, Nathan shouldn't be here. Like, if your body, because they call kidney disease a silent killer, because often, especially chronic like mine, it wasn't something acute. It's just slowly declining. And then you're just like, I don't know. Like, doctor be like, are you tired? I'm like, I'm a mom. I've little kids. Like, what do you mean? Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, because what am I measuring it to? And so when he said that, like, I literally just was like, oh my gosh. And Nathan means gift of God. So it's like, I already had this incredible, and so he was already a miracle to us, having had 5 miscarriages before, like 1 set of twins, so 4 pregnancies. So going through all of that, and then having this doctor say, like, I don't even know how he's here. His name is gift of God. And just like, that's the paradox of I had this most insane gift of this little boy, obviously the other boys too, but kept me so present to the day to day in the hardest of hard of like grieving my dad. So that's when I say paradox, like that's where it's just like, what? Like, and as a human, how do we hold that? Like shattered hearts and also just like this like perfect little human that I get to raise and the other boys. So yeah, so all that to say, so I forget that part. I haven't told that part in a long time of what a gift it was that I was like, Nathan, you're even more of a miracle. And it's just such a gift. Like all my boys are, right? Yeah. And so that was 2014. And you could take this however you want. I'm just going to say it. When I came home from the hospital, when they were like, you're going to need a transplant. This is after I met with the nephrologist. I was like nursing Nathan and I'm like Googling, like, what does it look like? And I was like, Jesus, can I just have 5 years? Can I just get this little boy to 5? And that way, because I was primarily stay-at-home mom. That's been the greatest joy of my life. Like, I love that. Like, And in those seasons, you know, we just made life work, whether money was tight or whatever. I loved being that like primary person, you know, and I nursed my babies forever until Chris is like, we got to be done, wife. Like, you know,
Walking up to you.
Yeah, not that old.
No, I'm kidding.
No, but, or he'd be like, it's time for them to move out into their own bed. And I'm like, oh, but they're just so little. And so I just remember that prayer and it was one of those moments, I don't know if you've ever had prayers where like, you feel like, okay, God just thought like, there was like a something like, and I felt like God like heard that and saw me. And I tell you guys, my kidney function after China went back up to like 24 to 27.
Wow.
5 years. I'm not even joking, was when it started dropping. And so once you get to 20%.
Because you were originally told you needed a
like
transplant
immediately. It was immediately. Because I'm at 15%.
Wow.
They were like, so I went to China. I did try some herbs and stuff. But I just kind of also believe that because that was my biggest heart's desire, was I just want to be there for him. And then 5 years today, it started dropping, which is crazy. And then over the next few years, and really for me, it was when someone's like sick, sometimes it's hard because there's like a hashtag social media, like you don't look sick. I heard that all the time. You don't look sick. And I'm just tough. Like I live my life, I do my thing, but was making it like smaller, you know, kind of. And so it kind of shrinking my life, brain fog, all the things until it was in 2021 that I had a donor. I actually advocated for a donor, went on social media and was like, hey, I need this. Kind of awkward. You want to give me a kidney? Like, what do we do? But in that, it was a friend, Chris, that we had known. He was actually more friends with Chris. I was friends with his wife. I was more of an acquaintance. And he's like, I know it's me. Like he wrote me back on Messenger right away. And I didn't see it. So then he texted Chris and he was like, hey, go tell Sarah. And he got tested and he was a perfect match. He's super fit. So another Chris, right? Like I got a lot of Chris's and Josh's in my life. So we were able to plan it preemptively. So my kidney function went down to 11%. So we wanted to like, let me get low enough to have the transplant before I needed dialysis, because your lifespan after dialysis, even with the transplant, is still lower than for me to get a transplant now and then move forward. And everything went great. The surgery went great. Like every time I worked out, I was like, this is so I can recover faster. Like I just really had that mindset of like, I'm going to be the healthiest, strongest I am going in, having no idea what the surgery was easy for me, but the meds were a rough road for, I would say, like the first year and a half, like the immunosuppressants. I mean, being on prednisone, which is a steroid, for a year, talk about anger and feelings. And, you know, I've had friends go on it for 10 days and be like, why do I feel... I'm like, well, I was on it for a year.
Wow.
And I was able to wean off. I went down to UCLA and I was just like, listen,
I
know this isn't working. Like, I was like, yes, I have a kidney and I'm alive, but I don't want to be a mom like this. I don't want to be a wife like this. It's just, we got to figure something out. And I was reading that other centers were not using prednisone. So had the kidney transplant and now it'll be 5 years in October.
Wow.
Yeah.
5 years in October. So that was 2021.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's just wild.
It's just a little thing, just a minute.
It's just crazy.
Things.
Yeah. So again, my sight into that's mostly through Chris.
Yeah. And
I just remember a super pivotal moment, and it ended up in his book, which totally took me by surprise. And then the copy he just gave me is like in the corner he wrote, "That's you." And it was like, I didn't realize it was as impactful as it was. It was just, me doing my encouragement thing. But I remember we were at the park. It was the Del Mar Park in Morro Bay, and your surgery was imminent. You all were getting ready to head down. It was in LA, right?
Yeah, like UCLA, yeah.
And he was a mess. He was just a total mess. He's a feeler. He's a right, like he and. I just remember looking at me like almost desperate. Like it was just like, he just looked a little lost. And and as someone who had our relationship up to that point is he's coach. He's my coach and I'm in the coachee seat. And I think this was a huge shift for us. This was probably like a moment that really transitioned us to more peers, brothers, equal playing field. And I just grabbed him by the shoulders. I like pinned him up against the van, right? And I had his shoulders, and I said, "Look at me," And he was like, eyes are saturated. And I said, these are the moments we train for. And like, it was just what I had like right here, but I could, it went to his bones.
Yeah.
Like it spoke to him at a soul. It was just like, Chris, all the work you've done and all the tools, all the language, this is the moment that matters right here.
Yeah.
You are ready for this. Like, you are the perfect person to walk Sarah and your family through this. And literally in that moment, like, his posture shifted. I felt his body shifted, his face shifted, like everything shifted. And it just was, it just became, and again, I did not expect to be flipping through the book and be like, oh my gosh, this moment made it, like right here. So yeah, it was just a very interesting season to know all that you all were dealing with, how he was trying to kind of stand in that space for you. Super stoked that the story is the story. There was something about your kidney, the new kidney, taking in a way that like wasn't normal.
Oh,
right?
it was like so fast. Like, I don't even remember how much urine I produced
something?
in like the first like night. Like, they were just like, holy, like, and just immediately it just locked in. And my doctor said I got the Ferrari of kidneys, which is super fun. I mean, my donor Chris, like, super fit, super healthy, and he's young. So all of that does matter when it comes to me being young at the same time. For the lifespan of the kidney and myself. So.
And you are still in communication? You all have a relationship with the donor, Chris, the donor?
Yeah. We chat all the time.
Chris the kidney?
Chris. Well, it was funny. Like, at first,
Kidney
like,
Chris?
be like, thank you. I'm like, you say thank you for, I don't know, you got me like a Starbucks. Like, how do you say thank you for a kidney? But also, right, if we trust that like everything's connected, and me asking and being willing to receive, right? Which, being an independent face, there's so much to it. And even talking about kidneys in general, talking about coaching and just all the different philosophies, I think, because I've been over 50 countries and just like culture, I love cultures and how everyone sees things differently. You know, Chinese medicine sees your kidneys as your chi, as your energy. And they also think when that's depleted, a lot of it is fear. And so a lot of the work I did internally during that time of healing, I did, you know, obviously the Western doctor, even though I was a punk at first, but in case I needed it, I did the Chinese medicine. I saw other naturopaths, but I also did inner healing and like, where am I living in fear? And if you think about your kidneys are filters, where have I spent my whole life filtering myself? AKA, I'm not going to be angry. I'm just going to be polite. I'm just going to be this. I'm like all of those things. So that work was also kind of like stirring with the kidney work. And in that time, it was interesting because it can get to this point, like, of where do I surrender? Where do I say, I'm going to walk this path of healing and I trust? Because there was a part of me too that was like, God, I believe you can heal. Like, you do miracles all the time. But then also, what am I quantifying as healing, right? Like,
attachment to an outcome.
Right? Years ago, the idea that I have another human's, it goes in the front in case people don't know. So I have a little extra.
Thank you.
Here. Like, so they just sew it in right here. And they left the other two. If it's cancer or something like that, they might remove one. So my two little beans in the back are just going to shrivel up. And so this is my main functioner right here.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I have like so it's like a scar is actually like right here. So they put that in, and why was I saying that? Oh, I don't remember what I was saying.
The work that you were doing, and
just of like the filters and what does that mean, was all kind of starting that journey for me of that inner. Oh, this is what I was gonna say. Obsessed with the outcome, wanting the outcome, believing if I prayed hard enough, if I did all the work, if I healed every dark secret of my ancestry, like Sir Francis Drake, who was a pirate, and I forgave all his stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so that was an interesting world to go in, but then also to come to this point, also we were still pastoring a church at that point, having Sundays where it was like, do not ask to pray for me. Like, I'm fine. Like, if you want to pray for me on your own, do it. But like, I don't want to be praying told. Don't tell me what to do. It was an interesting dynamic being in ministry, walking that path, while also trusting, because also in my receiving, my donor, like, it's his story to tell, but for him, it was also such a gift that he was able to do. You know, like, his wife at the time had been sick a lot and done all these things, and he couldn't help her. And so he's like, if I would have done anything to help my wife at the time, how can I do this? And there was some stuff with his sister who had passed as well. And so it was just, we're all connected. And if we can trust the giving and the receiving and those pieces, and just the support of the community around us was huge, you know? So
I love that.
Yeah.
The whole idea of like interconnectedness is some people's framing for just the idea of spirituality.
Yeah.
Right. Like I have heard Brene
Yeah.
Brown describe it that way. Just like how do you define spirituality? And it's like
Yeah.
just the idea that like we're all connected.
Yeah.
And for different belief systems or different containers, that interconnectedness is accomplished different ways or through means, but just the fact that, hey, like we're all, there's an interconnectedness at some level.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you talked about outcomes, surrender.
Yeah.
And I was just literally in a conversation with a friend yesterday and this morning around patience. This idea of like needing patience.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I got you, because I spent an entire year journaling about patience and trying to grow patience within myself. It was by reverse engineering the needs of people around me, primarily my 4 that I live with. We would really love it if there was more patience from Dad. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
And in that work for me, what I've come to, I think that I found like the formula.
Yeah.
Because I think the only way to grow patience is to detach from expectations and surrender outcomes. Those are the 2 things that I literally typed those out this morning. So like when you said that, it totally landed with me. I don't think there's a way to even deploy patience, let alone grow it or expand it, without removing expectations and surrendering outcomes, which people can sometimes look, even just hear that idea and go like, what does that mean? You're like, surrendering outcomes means like I'm not driving toward a very specific thing. I'm learning to be in process.
Yeah.
Whatever the thing is, whatever that looks like, right? To fitness is always like an easy analogy. It's like I'm not attached to the outcome of 6-pack abs or weighing a certain weight or lifting a certain number. It's how do I stay in the process of going to the gym and showing up and doing the thing? Yeah. And that's going to give me the patience to achieve what I ultimately want to achieve.
So tricky.
Yes. The people's favorite line, easier said than done. Yeah. Right. Yeah. What's coming up for you?
I think it's a huge mind shift, because most of the time, like, people talk about goals and set a goal. And so if you're talking, like in that fitness example, like, my goal is to be this weight, right? And so then they get so attached to that. But if you don't have that framework and that mindset of like, no, it is through the work, the passion, the what's the word that I'm looking for here? Having that discipline and fall in love with the habits.
It's the journey.
Is the journey to get there. Then you're gonna be so disappointed every single day until you hit that number, and then you're gonna hit that number and say, and now what?
Yeah.
It's the moving goalpost.
Yeah.
Right. You hear it a lot in corporate world about the next title or the level of pay that they want. It's like the goalpost can keep moving. You can hear it in life with like, when am I going to get married, or when am I going to buy a house, or when am I going to have kids, or and all those things. It's like we can get too attached to the outcome, want it so much, we're disappointed, we don't have it, and then we don't have patience in the process and journey to get to it.
Yeah. One coach that I followed for a long time, she'll have you do, like, if you're setting a goal or wanting something, she'll have you sandwich it between things you want. So like I could say, I want 3 boys. I want to go to some country, because maybe I want to go to a new country this year, and that's the thing I haven't done. And then the third thing is like, I want to be married to Chris Failla. So like sandwiching, reminding ourselves to want what we already wanted in the past, and then also like bringing it to the current day, right? Like, how do we, like, just having gratitude in the midst of the still wanting the desire, but like, do we practice wanting what we have, which is gratitude in a sense.
Totally.
But it's like, do I actually practice that? Like, I mean, obviously with miscarriages, like there were years where I was like, well, we even have 1 kid. So do I ever take time to just actually practice wanting them and like celebrating? So it's gratitude, but it's just a little different too. But also in the context of setting goals, I think it's an interesting play on paper or even just for your mind.
Well, and it comes back to paradox.
Yeah.
Because that's a yes and.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
we've talked about this earlier. We've talked about the contentment
Yeah.
and wanting more, or personal growth or professional growth or whatever it is. So it can be, I'm super great. I love Nathan. I love Zach. I love John. I got 3 boys. And I can still mourn the loss over here. And that can be real at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it all ends up coming back to that idea of paradox.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good.
Leadership and.
Yeah. And I think it's like being present, because I think that in between, it can be a crazy place to be. Like the in between what you want, where you're working for, especially when you're taking such solid active action to, like what you said, to let go of the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
but also knowing that you're like wanting it and you're pushing for it.
It's a balance.
Or
a needle to thread, as someone we know will say, right? It's a needle to thread between I'm patient.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not attached to this outcome, but I can still name it as something I want.
Yeah.
And that can be hard to do.
Yeah.
Yes, I want this.
Yeah.
And if in pursuit of it in the process things shift or things change, how do I remain open to that?
Yeah.
And be willing to even shift or pivot my desire or my want.
Yeah.
Accordingly.
Yeah.
Right?
And part of our Muse curriculum with Alexi Panos, like she's a coach and a woman that I love and adore. Part of it was like, who do you want to be in the process? Right? Like it's one thing to set a goal, but it's like, who do I want to be and what's the energy I want as I am doing that? And so, for her, part of our work was like, we use the word muse. It's like be the muse of your own life. Like, what does it look like to just be so in love with yourself and your life and like to have all of that. But it's like, if it is a fitness goal, who do you want to be as you reach that goal?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's essentially all we actually have is the in the moment. And how do you want to feel? Because you can reach the goal. Do you want to reach the goal feeling miserable every single day? Or do you want to reach the goal feeling ease or peaceful or just determined, whatever the word might be? There's no judgment on the word. It gets to be individual to everyone.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people use the fake it till you make it. But I think it's deeper than that, because it's not just you faking something. It's like you actually owning, like, hey, I want to be this person. And so I'm going to act this way because this is who I want to be, not because this is just something that I want to do to get to that point. And then I'll ditch that. I'll like just, remove that skin once I get there. But it's actually the other way around, right? It's like, I want to embody this person that I want to be so that when I get there, I am already that person.
Yeah. Yeah. So and loving the habits, right? Like becoming a person who loves going to the gym, who loves eating a certain way, who loves being active versus like, I just want this result.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I love this. That's James Clear. So Atomic Habits, what James Clear says is when you're, and he frames it a lot when you're looking to introduce a new habit, or to revisit an old one, right? But that we have to bring it to our identity level. So he'll say, the goal is not to read more, it's to become someone who reads.
Yeah.
The goal is not to exercise more or lose weight. The goal is to become someone who trains.
Yeah.
And once something's at your identity level, the decision's super easy. In fact, Brianna and I were having a conversation about this earlier this week. She, in the last handful of months, has started jujitsu. And she's liking it. I think she's kind of on, like, she's trying to contemplate, does she love it? Does she like it? Like, what's going on? She's been challenged in it, which is not super normal for her. She kind of tends to excel and thrive. And she has gone back and forth, even conversationally with me, on like, I don't know if I'm going to stick with it. I might quit. I might stop. I might keep going. And it's vacillating a lot. And the gaps are getting a little bit longer as far as her vacillation and conversation with it. And the other night I said, hey, what's interesting is you never talk to me about maybe quitting yoga. And you never talk to me about maybe quitting pickleball. But for some reason, this jujitsu kind of keeps cycling back around. And I'm wondering if you've decided to attach it to your identity yet. Because you're very clearly someone who does yoga, and you're very clearly someone who plays pickleball. Where are you in I'm someone who trains jujitsu? And the look on her face was like, oh, I think that's the process she's in. And so, and there was some other, background color to the conversation, some things that have, she's processed interestingly, or maybe had some negative impact. And so she came back to me a couple hours later and she's like, I think I'm in process of deciding if it's going to be part of my identity.
Love that.
I'm like, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think once you do, we won't have this conversation anymore.
Yeah.
Well, either way, either you'll say it's not going to be part of my identity and you'll play around if and when you do, or you'll say, nah, I'm someone who trains jujitsu and it's what I do.
Yeah. Or I maybe propose, or even in the season, I'm someone who.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
right
maybe
now.
like 2 years she's over it, but there's still like lessons. And in this season, I am a person who does this.
Totally.
Yeah. That's so good.
And can I bring also, there's something so beautiful, like a little phrase that you say to, that you said to Blakely in one time that she was having a hard time at one of her games. And you brought that up, like she was just struggling, and you said something so.
Have we talked about that on here yet?
I don't know if we have.
Do you want to give people permission to judge my parenting?
Do it.
I love it.
You love it?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, my 11-year-old, she's pitching, so she's playing up. She's playing in a 12U. She should be in 10U. Now, we did play her up selfishly so that our girls could be on one team.
Love it.
And one set of practices, one set of games. We do it every other year, and it's a big win for us. Blakely's superpower is definitely her mindset. So, yes, she wants to be the future owner of Lighthouse, and she just has resilience. So we have talked forever and ever, whether she's batting or she's pitching, it's just next pitch, right? So she swings and misses, next pitch. She cracks it out to left field, and it's a great hit, next pitch. Never too high, never too low. Like let's just keep moving. On the pitching mound, that can be a little bit harder. And, the cheers are coming from the other team. The crowd can start to get quiet. You throw too many, balls, and it's like, it's just tough. And so there was a game, I don't remember, this was like maybe a month ago. And I pulled her off to the side in between innings, and I was like, hey, you need to remember, this is what you wanted. You've been dying to pitch. You've been dying to be under this spotlight. You've wanted this pressure.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I'm like, you love this shit.
Yeah.
And she started busting up laughing. Like, and she's like, I do. And I'm like, hey, you can say that. Okay. Like, you love this shit. I think that will help kind of like, dial you in. I'm like, so I can't yell that from the bleachers, but like what you'll hear me, I'll just say, hey, you love this, right?
Yeah.
And that next inning, she's up on the mound, and I was like, you love this, and I could see her. She wears a face mask, while and I could just see her under her breath. She's like, I love this shit. And like I could see her lips move. Strike, strike, strike.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That game, there was maybe like 4 more innings. So it's getting to the end of the game, and they have to go back out to pitch. They're up by 1. And so if they close out this inning, if the other team doesn't get any runs, they'll win the game. And so you're the pitcher walking out. That's all the pressure in the world, right? And so I just walked over there, and she was getting her glove, and I was just like, hey, this is what you wanted. And she looks left, she looks right, she kind of checks her surroundings, and she looks at me, she goes, Dad, I love this shit. All right, kiddo, go send it. And she did. She struck out the first 2 girls, and then she caught a pop fly to end the game. Like drops, and she has this move. She drops the ball and runs to the dugout, and it just looks like a walk-off. It's like she just drops the ball and just runs off, and it's like, oh man, she's such a boss.
Right?
Yeah.
Love that. And like you removing the layer of potential shame, even around that word.
Right.
But that word gave her access
Totally.
to something. Like sometimes there's just certain words or things that like that's the truth.
It made
like,
her feel bigger.
It was like,
Yeah.
oof. Like you got her in her body, you got her, like you got everything like online on fire.
Yep.
So good.
Yep.
Yeah.
And now we can just yell. We can say, "You love this,"
And
and she knows. Like it'll
It'll forever be your thing.
It's really cool.
I love that story, and I love it because oftentimes we pray for certain things, we ask for certain things, and then when we're in it, we ask for that job, or we ask for that a car, we ask for the house, we ask for all these things, and then pretty soon, once we have those things, we end up maybe like not showing up to that job with the right attitude, or not appreciating your car, and you're like, oh man, I wish this car was bigger or smaller, or it had this or better gas mileage. Or you look at your house and you're like, man, this thing feels small, or it's too big, or it's too this, or it's too that. And like remembering that we asked for this.
Remember when you when you would have given anything for this job. Remember when you were praying so hard to have kids and
For
now
your
you want
spouse.
to light them on fire, right? And
Yes.
remember when you were just,
Yeah.
you wanted a partner so bad, right? And like,
Yeah.
when you remember,
Yeah.
it's a really good
So
reminder.
I love that.
So good.
Thank you for
Yeah.
that. On the access thing, I love that you are using that word because, so I have a thing. Like, first of all, I try not to curse, or I've tried not to curse in the past. Just, I don't know. And I was just hearing this story yesterday over like at the table with some friends, but like in Spanish, I'm like a sailor. Like every other word is just like,
Interesting.
yeah. But in
Ooh.
English, I think there's like something about it just because I spend so much time learning English that I think I was like, I'm not going to waste my mental space and capacity on like
Okay.
words that are, there's better words for this, right?
Yeah.
And then that translated into flipping off somebody, right? Like to me, that, and I think it's maybe a cultural thing, that when somebody flips somebody off is such a strong like sign, is such a strong action to me because coming from a different culture, I'm like, oh, like they blur it in every movie, like that's just something that is not okay. And then my wife, she does it casually with her friends and they're just like are jokingly, and I think most people do, and it's totally fine. And so
I really hope my sister's listening to this.
Okay. And so our whole relationship, she's always had to hold back because we made it very clear from the beginning. I'm like, that to me is a sign of disrespect and all this and all that. And then a few days ago, I don't know what we're doing. We're just like, bantering with each other. And she was about to flip me off. And like she held back. Like it was like the perfect timing. And I realized, I'm like, this actually would have been really fun if she did. And so I brought it up and I'm like, hey, listen, like, I think we have to have a conversation. And she was a little worried at first, like, oh man, what's going on? What's happening? And I'm like, I think it's going to be okay with me if you want to flip me off once in a while. And I am not kidding. She got so emotional. Like she shared it yesterday with friends because she was like, I feel like we just unlocked it.
Yeah.
It just gave me access to like another layer of like, joking between us. And to me,
Like another connection point.
Exactly. And so something like as simple as that, allowing others to, give that permission to like, okay, what matters to her, what matters to me, and like analyzing like what the deep, impact it has on somebody else. So anyway, it's such a small thing, but I love that you use that word access because that's exactly how I feel. I feel like we both just gained access to another layer of like, intimacy, if you will, which is super weird that flipping off is a sign of intimacy now between us. But so
No, that's so beautiful.
just like the word, SHIT.
Coach him up. Come on.
Well, no, and just thinking too, like just even the beforehand, like having the conversation, being honest about it, her respecting your boundary, because even if it's different, also you guys have like cultural things, right, that are different there, and then your willingness to kind of also see and be open. Oh, it's just so beautiful.
All right, I got a question. What language do you think in?
I get asked this a lot.
Not dream. I've heard that one asked a lot. Not dream. I'm talking, what language do you think in?
I think mainly in English.
Okay.
I count in Spanish.
Okay.
Which is super weird.
Yeah.
And I count, some people count by twos, or if you're trying to count like large quantities, I count in threes or fives.
Oh,
which is super
threes
weird.
is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, the thinking is usually in English, unless I am thinking about a conversation I'm going to have with somebody in my family that only speaks Spanish. Then the language shifts, and it takes a little bit now. I think I've been speaking English or living in the U.S. for more than half my life now,
right?
And so I think my brain is starting to like adopt now. Like English is like the main driver, and Spanish now is the second driver, is the passenger.
Where I was going with that is, I had some curiosity when you said that in Spanish you're like a sailor, but then in English not. I was wondering if you were like, do you think in Spanish, or like, and then edit as you're moving it to English, like kind of pull out some of those words but it doesn't sound like it.
No, only in moments of like I can think of times where like I just got hurt hammering something. Immediately my body goes to Spanish and I'm just like cursing.
Nice. Let me write.
I need to hear that.
What do you got? Yeah.
Sometime.
I need an example.
Yeah.
Okay. Since we're on Patrick, he said something earlier, and I wanna alley-oop it to you.
Okay.
And it was when he was talking about emotions and joy, and he used a word that I tend to hear a lot in coaching containers, which is should. He
I
said,
heard
"Did you catch it?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I wrote it down.
Yeah.
Underlined it. Right. It was
I'm
like,
always listening.
but he said he's like, and it's normal.
Correct.
But you verbalized it in
Yeah.
a way of like, I should have more joy, and that comes up a lot in coaching. And at least for me, it's one of those like red flag statements that I'm
Yeah.
always paying attention to.
Yeah.
How do you handle that? How do you take that kind of phrase, and what do you do with it?
Yeah. So to go meta about it, I would go several different directions. We could explore, how would you know you're experiencing enough joy? Like what would it look like? What would it feel like? What would be different in your life? With the should word, I could potentially, that's the thing with coaching too. There's always so many different roads
It's
you
like a
can
tunnel
take.
system.
Yeah. And one of the courses I did, they had 4 trainers that actually led it, and I loved it because they were all so different. And they would even disagree sometimes about the direction that you took a client. Instead of, if you follow one coach mentor, you're like, oh, this is the way that you should coach.
Yeah.
So with the should, I would also maybe explore what was it like growing up? Like how much joy was allowed? What would happen? Whose voice is often a really good question. Like if you're feeling like, oh, I should, like in a pressure way, whose voice is that? Like, is it? So yeah, pick one of those. You want to play with any of them?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think growing up, the life at home was always centered, like work was the center of it all. Like we are hard workers, we work hard, and I mean we worked 7 days a week in our family, and I worked Saturday and Sundays. Like I worked every single day of my life. Like rarely did I take breaks. Sunday's the only time that we would close the stores that we had. We had like little convenience stores. We'd close early so that then we can go to church in time, and that was it. But every other hour of the week, it was always around work, and so joy was very hard to be found, like very hard. Like I had to find joy in the things that I was doing by myself. So it was not modeled to me that like, hey, look, this is, like you should take breaks and you should enjoy this. And when you're in that joy, live in that moment and enjoy it and savor it. And so now there's a lot of like guilt. Like the word, when I'm feeling joy, the word that comes up is like guilt.
Because
like,
you're not what?
I'm not working. I
Right.
should be working.
And if you're not working, then what?
Then I don't know. It just feels like I'm not fulfilling my role. Like my role should be always producing, always working, always creating, always doing something.
Yeah. Because if you're not doing that, then what does it mean about you?
That I'm failing. That's a voice in my head.
Yeah. Like you're failing. Yeah. Yeah. And if you fail, right? Because if you take it to the, then what?
Let's keep going.
If you fail.
If I fail, then I feel like then I have to restart everything again. Like I feel like all the work that I've done, then it just squashes down and then it's non-existent. And I have to start all over.
Yeah. Work in actual work or work in like merit earned for all the hard work? Like what area?
Say that one more time.
So like when you say I have to start all over again, is that because obviously like working hard kept you a part of the tribe. It's part of the family. It's what we do. And it's like a practical level. I think that's something to also in this coaching world, like we have to understand the hierarchy of needs, right? Like people, you can be talking about all this ethereal, like cool stuff up here, but if people aren't eating, if they don't have food, shelter, and that also is something I think to really understand with our clients too, when we're starting, like, where are you at in life right now? Are things tough? Did you just go through a grief? Like, is there a loss? Are your finance, cause like all of that, like these things are up here. And if that's a struggle, like that also needs to be part of the equation. But that was just like a little more meta. But yeah, so thinking about for you, right? Like that's what needed to be done. It's how you were, I maybe presume, a good son, provided for the family, took care of everyone. So if you failed, was it like the actual work project you felt like you had to start over again? Or is it like I might have lost some positioning in the family?
Yes, correct. Positioning.
Okay.
And I mean, there was a lot of, so I was raised by my grandma and my uncle. And my uncle, the way that it was always expressed to me, the way that I was always portrayed, it was that my uncle sacrificed so much for me and for the family. And so that was the goal that you had to reach. This is the bar.
Pinnacle.
You have to get to that. And so anytime you're not doing that, you're missing the mark. And then his sacrifices for nothing. And it was like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of pressure.
There's the guilt attached to the joy.
Correct.
If you're in joy, you're not working.
Exactly.
Falling short of unk.
My uncle, man, he's been working since I've known him, his whole life, and until today, he's probably working right now. He does not take vacations. He
Yeah.
does not travel. He does not go anywhere. He does not,
Mhm.
because he's so. I mean, I feel like in some ways I got out. I still have some of that, remaining in me of like that guilt and all that, but he's still stuck there working every day, whether he needs the money or not need the money, whether it doesn't matter. That's his that's who he is now.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, for me, not reaching that bar in our family was like, well,
Mhm.
you're wasting all that sacrifice. And so for me to have
heavy.
joy, it was so hard. I'm like, yeah, if I would go on like a school trip or something, I would be thinking of like, man, I'm here because my uncle's working. And so it was really hard to detach from that. So now being, my own, husband and dad and all those things, like I know the value that it has to show my kids like that I can enjoy things and that I can rest and that I can do things, but it's still super hard to sometimes detach from that.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing that comes up for me that obviously not right now, but I
Yeah.
would love to do in the future. So in IFS, internal family systems, we also talk about legacy burdens. And the burdens that we carry that actually aren't even our own, but that are passed on from uncle, like working so hard. And so there's this like, it's an honor, but it's also a weight, and it's a legacy, something that like you can carry that actually isn't yours, that's meant to carry, like in the way that maybe you're carrying it, sure, but it's like, what would it look like for Patrick to honor his uncle in the purest Patrick way? But culturally, we have a lot of different things that play into that. So like if we were going to work on that, it would be kind of like going back and like walking through an exercise of, just visualizing your uncle coming in, and it'd be personal to you, right? So I can't say what it would look
Yeah,
like,
correct.
but and essentially kind of like handing that back to him, like, thank you for all that you've done for me and all that you've provided. And this is how I'm going to show up and to like honor your legacy and who I am. But the weight attached to it gets to go back, right? Because it's like it's a burden that's put on you. And so, and also like even as an immigrant, like I can't speak to that, but like there's a lot of different weight, and there's so much of like, we sent you here, we sacrifice, like there is like so that also gets to come up in IFS too, where it's not just your parts at the table, it's the ancestors, it's legacy, it's
What's grandma saying? What's
Yes.
auntie saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's the weight and the pressure, and so it's really real.
Would you say, Sarah, that exercise then essentially starts to reframe what's allowed
Yes.
in joy versus
Yes.
guilt versus work? So you go back into the internal family systems to reframe all
the
that.
bigger internal family
Yes.
system, of your ancestors.
Yeah, so that you then get that opportunity to have a new operating system is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Because your operating system right now is deceiving joy.
100%. 100%. Yeah.
But rightly so, right? If that's what kept you part of the family, and it's out of love and honor for your uncle.
Yeah.
And so, but it's that nuance in there. And so I feel like that's where just like bringing those things out and into the light, and it's really a sacred experience, like in those sessions where you do call in the ancestors and you get to kind of like hand back to them what is theirs.
Yeah.
I love that.
You and I talk a lot about how different we approach coaching and the different skills and tools that we have. If anyone's listening who's been coaching with me, they're likely going to be like, how do I get an appointment with Sarah? Just hit me up. We'll set you up with Sarah. Beautifully done. That was and thank you for letting us play there, Patrick, because I know this will have ripples for a lot of people. My approach would be wildly different to that. And if it's you, right, like one of the things I would first call out is like, man, having a front row seat to watching you be able to find joy yourself in anything, while that could have like a real negative connotation from your early childhood of like, man, like joy just wasn't a thing. And I had to find it myself. I would also offer you, I've seen that as a superpower. So I've seen you in the jungle of Costa Rica, and we're tasked with digging a giant pit in mud that is just, I mean, we're not even confident it's mud. It's likely not mud. And it was one of the most disgusting tasks I've ever been asked to do. And Patrick's just like, all right, dude, let's take our shirts off and, let's
like
play, let's have some fun. And it was like, how did he just make this incredibly enjoyable? Like
Yeah.
it's actually one of my favorite memories from that trip of standing in the mud with you, which I'll just make a quick connection to Simon Sinek's video he just put out. He calls sitting in the mud that like opportunity to show up for your friend, which we've talking. He's like, if you don't call me and tell me that something's going on, you rob me of the opportunity to sit in the mud with my friend.
Yeah.
Right. So, but that was actually like a fun sitting in the mud. So I've seen that at play now in a way that's actually really life-giving for people around you.
Yeah.
And so I would offer you that.
Yeah. Can I tap on that?
Please. Yeah.
And also it's the adding, like what he's saying, it's like, that's where you go. It's like, where is their joy in my life? Kind of like what you're saying. Like, so that's another way to play with it of like, is it true? Byron Katie, all the people, you know, like, how do you know that that's actually true? And challenging the story that I don't let myself feel it. And then where are pockets and then it's just like 1 inch more, like just a little bit more each time. And that's where we expand our capacity for those things.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
And having people point it out, which is why it's great to be in community.
Totally.
Right? Because we can have this story and you're like, that's not true. Like, that's not how I see. You tell me this stuff all the time.
You don't show up like that.
Like, I have a perception of myself sometimes that I need somebody else. Humans, we're meant to be in community to be like, actually, it's true, or actually, no, it's not. Like,
well, and that really points back to Chris Free's blog post that he did on the confidence, the mindset confidence loop, right? Where you go, okay, like I have this mindset, which could be a story I have, but then someone else might need to point out the evidence for you.
Yes.
Right? Like someone else might, no, Sarah, like I hear that story and I challenge it because that's not how I'm experiencing you in the evidence of how you show up.
Yeah.
And then can you then take that evidence and change the story the next time coming into it, right?
Yep.
So that really points back to that loop.
Yeah.
So then the should word, right? When I hear the should word, I intentionally playfully will say like, hey, let's not should on ourselves.
Yeah.
Right. So start there. Let's not should on ourselves and let's not should on other people. Like, and so, yeah, obviously it's a play on the shit word, right? Let's not should on ourselves, not should on other people, but it can sometimes be very similar. That's what it can feel like when you're feeling should that way. And so my reframe on it is likely if should's coming up, there's some sort of invitation. So like what let's just get rid of that word. And what are you feeling like you're being invited into? Right. Where, and then I would take it to the 1% idea. So like what does 1% more joy potentially look like for you, Patrick? Like what's one area that feels like low hanging fruit where you're like, you know what? I need more joy here. Does that make sense?
Totally.
That's kind of how I would tactfully, I don't know, whatever. I would like come in and get tactile about it.
I love that.
What would be the bucket that comes up first if you're like, one area where I could go like just 1% more joy?
So I think one of my wife's love languages is traveling.
Okay.
And we've had this conversation often where like up until we are at the location that we're going to, she sees zero joy. And I think it's part of this. It's part of me knowing that I'm about to stop working and going into a trip where I don't, I'm not going to be working. And so she's, she does PowerPoint presentations for me and like, hey, should we go here? Should we go there? And look at this place. And she makes Excel sheets and like, look at this restaurants and by day. And she puts so much effort and it hurts me, right? Like knowing that she loves it so much and I'm here, wrestling with like, oh man, should we leave? Should we not leave? All this stuff.
Yeah.
And so the 1% for me, I think, and I think it might be more than 1% there, but that's like the low hanging fruit, if you will, is allowing myself to be joyful in that journey with her. So that also when I show up to that place, it's like, man, like this is awesome. This is amazing. It's such a gift to have this opportunity for us to do this. Like all that hard work paid off so that we can be here and enjoy it in that moment. So it takes me a while to get there. Eventually I get there. Yeah. But that journey going there, it's muddy. And my wife can, tell you this. Like it's like she's carrying all of the weight and she's dragging me basically into like, look, now we're here. Enjoy this. And I'm like, okay, now I'm here. There's nothing I can do. My computer's in the hotel, whatever.
Now I'll be happy.
Now I'll have joy. There's nothing I can do but to enjoy it. And so it takes a while for me to do that. And so it's not like an easy like transition. It's just like a mud, and then joy. Yeah. So, so thanks for that.
No, that's yeah.
And I think that's where like knowing our partner's story, right, allows for more grace versus being like, Patrick, get your shit together. Like, this is so fun. Why aren't you coming? Like that energy versus like acknowledging.
Yeah.
I know, like, and I would even journal for you, like, who am I if I'm not working? And, you know, like, and just, you know, with your uncle stuff, but like understanding that just brings so much more grace to the conversation. And so that you can have that part of you honored that wants to work, you want to provide, like it's all of that. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and I'm ready for Chrissy to plan a trip for me. I'll say,
Oh, she's amazing.
can I see a PowerPoint presentation?
She's amazing. I even jokingly said, I'm like, well, I don't know if I can get into this. It doesn't have any music. And she just gave me that look of like, come on, dude.
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's incredible. Yeah.
That's so fun.
Very cool. What else you got on your radar, my friend?
I'm just so thankful for Sarah. Like we've known each other for a little bit, but not in this capacity and not in this depth. Like just knowing your story and knowing all the things that you've gone through and the passion. I mean, you're a powerhouse, like incredible. And so it's such a gift, such a joy, honestly, to just being here. Like I want more of this. Like this is not even long enough to scratch the surface on who you are and what you bring to the table to just as friends, as coworkers, as all the things. Like I'm just so blessed and honored to have you. So I'm super stoked. You have so much to give. So yeah, if anybody, you know, is wondering, wanting more of Sarah, like your podcast also, like I've listened to a bunch of your episodes and it's amazing. I love it. So
thanks.
Keep
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
How about you, Sarah? Anything else on your radar?
Anything on my radar, if I want to say? Just a reminder. I mean, Chris Failla says this, and I've had to learn it. Benefit of the doubt, and we're all just doing the best we can. Not within being late, like, right? That can be a statement that we could also spar about and kind of, are we doing the best we can?
Right.
But in general, with those that, we love. So I'm just, I'm grateful to be here. Coaching is very like sacred experience, you know, even I didn't want to pause without even just like, even like your uncle coming to your mind, just want to honoring him for entering the space somewhat, you know, and just like in that story. So I just wanted to also like close that loop of that popping in and then honoring that. It's a real gift and I'm excited. Eventually want to do some Lighthouse retreats. I think that's going to be awesome. We just have such a cool powerhouse, and also just Josh and I having some conversations about the different coaches on the team, because we are all so different. We have different backgrounds. We have different skill sets. So I'm just excited the more people that we can serve in understanding that and like, okay, no, you'd be a fit for this person or like, you know, even some of my clients, I'm like, oh, that's a Josh client. Like I have one woman, I'm always like, you're like a Josh, you're a Marine, you're like a dude, you know what I mean? And so, and also sometimes the opposite type coaching is good, right? And
well,
then
we have a few people that we're both coaching.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's really fun, right? So like, it's funny to hear. It's funny to hear their playback on like, I'll take that to Sarah, and I'll take that to you, and like they can start to understand the differences between us and how we approach it, and it's really cool. What you just said about, you know, us wanting to start offering some Lighthouse retreats really points back to what I was saying about, you know, corporate, you know, call it executive leadership teams and wanting to push back on their environment. And so in some circles, I'm trying to advocate for them to take that lead and let's get out of this room, right? And then at the same time, we want to start building our own offerings where we can say, hey, come to us. Like traditionally, or up to this point, it's really been Lighthouse going out to organizations and partnering with them, and it's phenomenal. We love that. And we're really starting to strengthen that muscle and idea of people coming to us and coming here and letting us work on you a little bit.
We just have such like, if you're talking about coaching, giving you tools, we also have people, like we have such a wide variety of tools as people on our team, which is very unique and such a gift.
Anything that you're excited about that's coming up in the near future for you?
Excited about, just had a birthday, just had an anniversary. So we got those. Summer, just be fun. This fall will be interesting. So I have my junior. So I have a junior in college, a junior in high school, and then a 12-year-old who's in 6th grade. But it'll be interesting. I'm just kind of really looking at like being intentional. What does it look like to lock in with Zach being a senior next year? But just looking forward to travel in the summer and all those things.
Sarah does a great job at pulling in the teen language. Did you hear that? I'm just going to lock in. Right? The kids yelling. So I'm in the same boat. Like the teen language just infiltrates.
Like what? Even just last night, something like Zach and a buddy came home from the gym and they were talking. I'm like, what is that? And they both just quickly like teach me the ways. But
Yeah. Well, Chris sent me an email yesterday, and it was a client was asking for, another engagement. He's like,
Yeah.
"You're cooking," and I'm like, "Look, dude, you are such a teenager." Like,
yeah.
But the cooking's one of those. It can be good, but if you're
Right.
cooked,
You're done.
that's bad.
Yep.
Right.
You're done.
Man, English is so complex.
Yeah. You should just speak in Spanish now.
I should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
This was absolutely amazing. We've been having to say it to most people, first of several, if not many. We should definitely do this again. Super glad that you were here. So thanks a lot.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Thank you.